get started here this morning. May I have the roll call, please? Here.
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 Mr. Chair, before you begin, can I remind the commissioners to turn your microphones off unless you are speaking? The sound carries a long ways.
So just be careful. We'll start here this morning with item number 2. Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners. The Commission scheduled an appearance via correspondence at the request of Robert Miller, attorney for property owner Marissa Garcia. The property is impacted by a $66 million direct connector flyover from southbound 1 I-605 to eastbound I-10 in the city of Baldwin Park in LA County. The department needs some of the properties for the construction of the project and for utility easements, and will acquire the remainder as remnants of little market value. The property owner claims the department's offer is not sufficient. In staff's opinion, the department has adequately answered the claim in its response letter to the owner. The property owner has chosen to appear via correspondence. The property owner's objections are included in the Commission book and are incorporated in the official record. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the resolution of necessity.
Move approval.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I just turned it off. Yeah, okay. Item number 3, approve the minutes of August.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4, Executive Director report.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I have several information items to report on. First item is I want to acknowledge that September is Rail Safety Month. All of the rail grantees have been working very, very hard this month in collaboration with the Operations Lifesaver in doing additional rail safety education outreach. So kudos to those and very much appreciated. Commissioners, the second item I have is a little bit of background on the cancellation of the closed session. And some of you probably realize that we had sent out a notice on scheduling a closed session, and then we canceled it a few hours later. So I just want to kind of provide some background of what had transpired. As some of you are aware, the pending lawsuit litigation in San Diego County Superior Court, Cleveland National Forest Foundation versus San Diego County Association of Governments, also known as SANDAG. Late last Friday, I was contacted by SANDAG legal counsel advising me of a brief window of opportunity to file an amicus brief. After consultation with the Commission's legal counsel, we needed, in order for the Commission to take any action, we needed to schedule a closed-door session. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we had a 48-hour notice. So with that in mind, we went ahead and issued the notice, scheduled the closed-door session. A couple hours later, received the phone call that the plaintiffs and defendants were in court asking for an extension to file the amicus brief, and whereas the plaintiff was asking for that window to be shortened. The judge looked at it, reviewed it, and stated that because of all the budget cutbacks, staffing cutbacks, he does not have time to hear any kind of briefs. Therefore, no additional briefs are being allowed. With that, it made it really difficult for us to have a basis for a closed-door session, so we went ahead and canceled it. I will be working very closely with SANDAG, getting some more background, and if necessary, we will be scheduling this on our regular agenda scheduled for the October Commission meeting. Commissioners, the second item, a reminder that October 9th and 10th is a town hall meeting hosted by the Central Coast Coalition in Santa Cruz. The reception will be the evening of the 9th, and the actual town hall will be on the 10th. Next item is just an update on the needs assessment. As you are aware, the efforts to prepare a report that identifies the various funding scenarios to address the projected 10-year funding shortfall is progressing along well. We had our last workshop September 19th, and the purpose of that workshop was to discuss the draft report. The meeting primarily focused on vetting out the draft report as well as identifying and quantifying efficiencies and performance measures. The outcome of this meeting was the work groups agreed to submit 3 efficiency measures and recommendations for the report that we have, or what has been implemented and would result in cost savings to reduce the projected 10-year gap that has been identified, and also to provide assurance that the report highlights the most viable revenue options and efficiency recommendations. Next item is the 2012 Commission's annual report, which is due to the legislature December 15th. Commissioners, Monday, October 1st, we will be circulating the draft for your review and comments. We'll incorporate those, and at the October Commission meeting, I will be recommending adoption of the 2012 report. Since we do not have a meeting in November, we need to make sure we meet the statutory requirements. Commissioners, the last item is, as you are aware, Annette Gilbertson has announced her retirement. Annette will be retiring effective October 30th, so her last meeting will be October. So we are planning a farewell reception for Annette the day before our commission meeting. We are planning a reception and a commission dinner in Sacramento. And for those regional agencies, we will make sure that you are notified and welcome your participation. And since Annette has announced her retirement, and we have Kendra who will be taking a leave of absence, Commissioners, we have appointed Laura Pennebaker to the Commission staff as an Associate Transportation Planner. Thank you, Malcolm. And Laura will be reporting to the Commission effective October 1st, and Commissioners, you will have an opportunity to meet her at the October Commission meeting. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Now we move on to item number 5, Commission reports. Do we have any? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 quick things. I wanted to announce, most of you may be aware of this, but Tom Margro is the longest-serving BART general manager, I believe, in the history of BART, and also served 5 years as CEO of the Transportation Corridor Agencies, with an extremely difficult battle trying to help complete 54 miles of toll system in Orange County. He announced recently his retirement, and I think that it might be nice if this commission would send in a letter of commendation to Mr. Margro to commemorate his long public service career in transportation.
And we'll do that.
Thank you.
Any other reports?
And then the second report from me, Mr. Chairman, is that I wanted to report that I have been appointed to the Ontario International Airport Authority, a joint powers authority of Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, and the City of Ontario, where I serve as Orange County's representative on this authority to work with the LAX system, LAWA, in returning local control of Ontario International Airport to the community. So I wanted to just share that with the Commission.
Well, thank you for that, and congratulations on that. And make sure that Ontario stays Ontario and we don't lose the airport. Now that you're on it, you've got a big job to take care of for us. Are there any others? Well, I have something that I want to say. It's going to be, y'all are going to be happy with this. Moira, are you around here someplace? I thought I just saw you walk in. Would you come forward, please? and let me take a good look at you. I believe that what I'm going to say, I need you up here, and you all the way. It's much easier for you than me.
I like this.
Well, the reason I brought her up here was that the other day I was talking to some folks, and they said that we might have her come back, or she may be coming back to the commission. And I said, is that for real? And they said, well, we think so. She's been down here a month, and she's so homesick for all of you that she decided that maybe she would just stay or come back to you. And I said, well, when will that happen? And they said, probably at your meeting. And I said, well, that's wonderful. So I have some whereabouts and where, how, and all of that kind of stuff, but it's right here. And if you're coming back to us, then there really isn't any reason for me to give that to you, is there?
No, so I guess I can't come back.
No, you misunderstood me, man. It was my understanding that you are coming back because you missed us.
Well, I do miss you a whole lot, but
She's not coming
I'm
back.
not coming back.
Well, I'm sorry to go through all of that with you folks, but that was my understanding, and I thought it came from a good source. But you see what I've got here? This is from the California Transportation Commission. And this is for you. And we want to wish you all the best in your new endeavor.
Thank you.
But the door is always open if you want to come back. So,
Well, that is very good to know.
so
I have a reputation for circling back to places.
see what I said was really maybe it'll happen. So
It's a
maybe,
timing issue.
well, we'll talk about that anyway. But anyway, this is for you.
Thank you, Gerald.
And I'm not going to go through all the
please
whereas and
don't.
all of that, but I do get a kiss, right?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all your help.
I just want to say thank you to everyone, including the RTPAs. I got the wonderful plaque. It's in my office, so if you come visit, you can see it. It's in a special place. And I do miss all of you, but I am enjoying my new challenge in Monterey. It's a great region, and I have great people to work with, and it's so much to learn. So thank you much.
Well, I guess I didn't get the right skinny on that, so I guess we'll all have to go to work and let her stay where she is for a while. Now, I had on item number 6, Commissioners' meeting compensation. Thank you. Anything, have a vote on that? Any questions on?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item number 7, the illustrious report from our Secretary, Brian Kelly. Are you...
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. First, just to report that the activities of the agency in most recent weeks include the continuation of our effort to create a transportation agency in California consistent with the governor's reorganization plan. As you all know, that plan was adopted during the legislative session this past year. Its effective date is July 1st of 2013, and we are now in the phase of implementation, working with the agency and both working to see departing departments leave the agency and go to other agencies, and then forming the transportation agency, which will consist in California of 7 departments, all related to transportation under the cabinet level agency. That work involves requests for personnel and different structural changes to the agency so that we are in a place where we are well positioned to tackle the challenges that are all on the horizon that we're familiar with, funding, the integration of high-speed rail, the continued work on sustainability programs through 375 compliant plans and things like that. I just want to report that that work is ongoing, and we are working now with the Department of Finance on moving to that agency for the implementation in July. The other item I just wanted to recognize more than anything else is last week the Federal Railroad Administration approved the record of decision for the first construction segment of the high-speed rail system between Merced and Fresno. And that's a monumental action to move forward on that project, and I think that combined with the work you're doing with the here at the Commission, we have allocations pending today for related connectivity investments, all toward modernizing the state's rail system, and we're pleased to see that move along. So that's all I want to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cal. Caltrans report this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, just a few items I'd like to share with you. Since we met last month, I've had the opportunity to fill our last district director vacancy in District 12, Orange County. Mr. Ryan Chamberlain was appointed to the district director position in District 12. Ryan started his career 12 years ago in District 7, moved over to District 12, moved up the ranks to be a deputy district director of planning. And then most recently, he was the division chief of transportation planning and headquarters, so I look forward to working with Ryan in his new capacity. I do want to take the opportunity to thank Brent Green, right-away division chief, who filled in as the acting district director down in District 12, and I very much appreciate his dedication to go down there and work in District 12 and continue them on a path of success. Over Labor Day, we had a very successful Dunbarton Bridge closure, successful from a seismic retrofit work standpoint, as well as successful from a traffic management standpoint. The bridge was scheduled to be closed from 10 p.m. on Friday to 5 a.m. on Tuesday. We were able to open it up by 7 p.m. on Monday evening, 9 hours early. Along those same lines, this weekend, we will be closing the 405 to complete the demolition of the Mulholland Drive Bridge, aka Carmageddon 2. So we hope that the motoring public in Southern California will cooperate with us as they did with Carmageddon 1. We're continuing to do as much outreach as we possibly can, like we did the first time around. We're working very closely with Metro as well as other stakeholders, including Metrolink, who is adding additional trains along that corridor. It is scheduled to be closed on the 29th and 30th this weekend. Also down in the LA area, I believe it's October 12th, we will be coordinating with local officials to try to move the space shuttle, which just took a tour around California, and that sets up to be a little bit of a traffic challenge as well. On our DBE, our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program, in partly to comply with Code of Federal Regulations, the department completed a updated availability and disparity study in August. The results of that study were used to formulate the proposed Caltrans DBE overall goal and methodology program for 2013 to 2015 going forward. We submitted that to FHWA on September 14th for their review. That submittal on that date also initiates a 45-day comment period, and that is underway and will go through October 31st. We are conducting outreach meetings in each of our districts, and the disparity study as well as the proposed goal is available on our website. Several agenda items. I look forward to the presentation on the implementation of MAP 21 at this meeting. The department has been working very diligently with the regions and your staff, so I appreciate everybody's assistance on that. In addition, you will have an agenda item to allocate the proposal to utilize $43 million of unobligated federal funds in earmarks. Thank you to Norma and Denix Anbia for all their hard work in working with the regions and their cooperation as well to allocate those funds by the end of the calendar year. One other piece of good news I'd like to share is the August redistribution from the federal government. We talk about this each year. The state of California received in August redistribution $136.6 million. Again, this year, it's near record levels of success. That's the highest amount that any state received in redistribution of federal dollars. So that is a testament to not only the hard work of our local assistance folks, but all the local agencies in delivering their projects. If you do not deliver 100% of your projects, you do not get to participate in the August redistribution. Over the past 10 years, California has received $1.2 billion in August redistribution, and again, that's due to the hard work of all the partners involved in that. So with that, I will conclude my remarks and be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Malcolm. Oh, I'm sorry.
You mentioned Vinny in your report, so they'd be happy. You just got to mention Vincent. Gets him over here. You forgot to mention Vincent in your report.
Oh no, Vince is up next, and I'm going to leave the comedy hour for him.
That's not 100% true, sir. Would you sit down just a second, please? Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce to you the gentleman with all the money, Mr. Vincent Mamano.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just make sure you got a check.
They can make sure I got a check. Right. Now the Malcolm gets to steal all the thunder. I should go in front of him because he gets all the good stuff. The $130 million in August redistribution, I don't think everybody really understands the impact of that. I've seen other states where they've come and requested $80 million in August redistribution, and I've looked at them and said, really? Are you going to be able to spend that if you get it? No, we won't be able to spend it. So we actually, in one state, we only requested 19 or 18 million in August redistribution, and California can deliver 130 million. You don't get the money unless we think you can deliver it, and we obviously believe you could probably deliver more than that. So that's a testament to everybody in this room. Your ability to deliver the transportation program is fantastic here in California. Today's the last day of obligating projects, so I just talked to my financial manager today, and it looks like everything's going to be wrapped up well. Approximately about $3 billion worth of money's been obligated here in California this year. That's fantastic. This is no other state in the country could do what you all do, and I say you all because I recognize that it's you all that do that. MAP 21 it becomes effective October 1. There is guidance, there's question and answers, there's actually a webinar happening today. If you go to our website, which is www.fhwa.dot.gov/MAP21, it has all the guidance, it has the question and answers, so it's got all the stuff that you're going to need to kind of see where Federal Highway is going. One of the things I would encourage you to do is continue to talk with the state, with the local agencies, continue to talk with the state, because there may be some guidance in there that allows something to happen, but state law may restrict that. So that's the sort of thing I want to make sure you're in constant contact with your local districts as you implement the MAP 21. Thanks, inactive obligations. I'm going to keep pushing inactive obligations every chance I get. I know last time I was here, we talked a lot about that. That's a biggie. We're still trying to get those down. We got to close out the projects, and that's not just Caltrans. That's every local agency that administers a contract. We need your help to do that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the DBE program. Malcolm has made a big effort to try and make this program work. This new disparity study is kicking off a new program, essentially. But that's another thing, that Caltrans is not going to successfully do that just on Caltrans projects. It can't happen. We need your help. We need your aggressive approach to the DBE program to make this a successful program. So the locals have the equal responsibility as Caltrans has to deliver this program and support this program. So you're going to be getting calls from me. I'm going to be hopefully walking indoors with Malcolm, talking to your leadership, saying, listen, we need attention to this program. We need a serious focus on this program to make this thing work. So it's happening now. Now's an opportunity for changing that program to deliver it well. So we're looking for everybody's help and asking for everybody's help to make that thing work. And I think that's all I have. I got out of there before you got the squirt gun out there, Commissioner, so I did all right, I think. Any questions?
Any questions?
That's a good answer.
Thank you, Vincent. Then we move on to local reports, item number 10.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Carol Groom. I'm a member of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, and I also have the proud honor this year of serving as the chair of the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and the Transportation Authority, let me welcome you to San Mateo County. We're delighted that you're here this morning to have your meeting. We're very excited to be hosting, and even more excited that later today you'll be deliberating on an item that will deliver the first installment of Proposition 1A funding for the modernization of the Peninsula Rail Corridor. These funds will be a big first step toward equipping the Peninsula's rail corridor with an advanced signal system that enhances safety, improves service, and helps prepare the corridor for the addition of an electrified Caltrain service and high-speed rail. Thanks to these improvements, by 2019, San Francisco and Silicon Valley will be connected with a world-class commuter rail service that is safer, quieter, cleaner, and offers faster, more frequent service to more riders with more stations. As our economy continues to rebound, urban areas across the state are struggling to expand transit, reduce traffic congestion, and provide more mobility options for their residents. In the Bay Area, modernization of the Caltrain corridor is an integral part of that solution to those challenges and can't happen soon enough. On the peninsula, we're fortunate that renewed job growth has helped increase the Caltrain ridership for 24 consecutive months. Of course, this also creates challenges. Many of our most popular trains are full and overflowing. Due to the infrastructure constraints, there is little we can do to relieve this overcrowding on our trains. Caltrain modernization will allow us to expand the capacity of the system and provide peninsula commuters with more options, which will help relieve the overcrowding and enable the system to accommodate future regional job and population growth. We know from our ridership survey that a rapidly growing percentage of Caltrain commuters ride the train because they believe it helps the environment. We owe it to these customers and to future customers and residents of our region to provide the kind of transit service that truly satisfies ridership demand. We look forward to your helping us with that today. And again, thank you for being in San Mateo County, and good luck with all your deliberations.
Pardon me? No, not yet. That's for the next person. I'm another greeter. My name is Bob Grisilli. I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of San Carlos, and I'm also the Chair of the City-County Association of Governments of San Mateo County, which is the congestion management agency for the county. On behalf of the CCAG Board, I want to welcome the California Transportation Commission, staff, and stakeholders to San Mateo County. CCAG is very appreciative of the support provided by the Commission to this county. This includes funding for the Highway 101 auxiliary lane projects, Caltrain, and the San Mateo County Smart Corridor. The California Transportation Commission has provided over $30 million in funding for the Smart Corridor project that has enabled the project to begin construction as we speak. As part of this presentation, Richard Napier, the CCAG Executive Director, will provide a brief overview of the San Mateo County Smart Corridor project a little bit later. CCAG looks forward to continuing working together for improved mobility in California. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today and for all the work that you do. Appreciate it.
Next speaker.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Mr. Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, and special guests. My name is Mike Scanlon. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for 3 of the transportation agencies here in San Mateo County. Chair Groom just mentioned the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. I'm also serving and greeting you today on behalf of the San Mateo County Transit District and the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board, more affectionately known as Caltrain. I did have the opportunity to greet the commission last night, and again, we're grateful that you chose to come here. Commissioner Gardino had called us quite some time ago, and we thought he had an excellent idea, and we're just so thrilled that you're here. We're very, very pleased that later today you'll be deliberating on two important issues to us. One, the advanced signal system, which includes a positive train control feature, and the other item is bridge improvements, grade separations in the city of San Mateo along the Caltrain corridor. But really and I'm going to use Mr. Kilmetty's word here, the signature project on the peninsula right now is Caltrain modernization. And in order to provide you just a very brief update, I've decided to give you a significant upgrade and introduce to you our Executive Officer for Caltrain Modernization, Marion Lee. She is in charge of overseeing and delivering this project, and she has a way with words of making very complex things sound very simple. I have the opposite skill. I make simple things sound complex. So welcome, and I'll give you Marion, and I hope you have a very productive day doing the business of the people of California and making this a place where the future is invented again. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very nice to meet you. This will be brief. It's really the context of how important your allocation is in terms of it feeding into a larger program, and I just want to quickly walk you through that. There is a lot to do in our corridor, but we have made some significant achievements, and today we'll just feed into some of those achievements that's been made. But most importantly, we have developed a local vision, and that local vision is based on many of the principles and interests of the many cities that have built up along our corridor. And this local vision is based on the concept of modernizing our system into a blended system. And what that means is that we'll be electrifying our infrastructure, and that we will be maximizing the utilization of our existing infrastructure by sharing it with high-speed rail. The key benefits to doing it this way is really minimizing impacts to our communities, acknowledging that they live along our corridor, and we need to do this in a way that works with their interests and desires. This approach also lowers project costs, which helps with project delivery. We have also landed on an incremental investment strategy to modernize our corridor and to make this happen. Our biggest accomplishment thus far has been coming up with a memorandum of understanding with multiple agencies in our region, as well as the state and as well as the federal level, in investing $1.5 billion into the Caltrain corridor. The key elements of this, the first project is what you'll be considering today, is an advanced signal system, which is essentially a smart system that will allow us to run more trains along the corridor, as well as to install positive train control, which will enhance safety. The second element to this is the actual electrification of our infrastructure and to convert our vehicles so that we will accomplish Caltrain electrified service by 2019, which is an immediate benefit to the communities that live here. In addition to this is the much more work that needs to be done. We have a focus on project delivery, but while we are doing that, we still need to do more, because there are additive investments necessary to support high-speed rail when they get here in 2029. We have to continue to work with our communities in the planning process, in defining what these additive improvements are, and with that, there will be additional advocacy needs for additional funding, and our goal is to support high-speed rail to downtown San Francisco by 2029. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Richard Napier, and I'm Executive Director of the City County Association of Governments. And again, I want to thank you for being here, and I really want to thank you for this next project, the San Mateo County Smart Corridor. I guess this might be considered positive car control, where the other one was positive train control. This project, the purpose of it is to route and flush traffic from the local streets when there's a major incident. Regular as clockwork, about every 18 months, we have a major closure on 101 due to a fire, a gasoline truck turning over, many things. And this is one of the worst ones we had. Both directions, the 101 was closed for 39 hours. In both directions, it was closed for 8 hours. And that's sort of the lifeline for the peninsula. This project was a conceptual project to basically develop some alternate routes between Highway 101 and El Camino Real, which runs parallel. This shows you, and I provided a handout, so I'm not going to just go through it all, the various cities that it goes through. And it is a multi-jurisdictional project. Now, before I go further on this project could not have happened if it wasn't for the CTC staff and the Commission support. And I especially want to put kudos in for the Commission staff, Mara Toomey and Bimla Reinhardt, for the support they provided and help on this project, and then the Commission approving the funds. So you've got a gem in the staff. They're very easy to work with and helped make things happen on the ground. This just shows you how it works. There's 101 on the top of the page, and then there's links that go over to El Camino Real. And one of the things that's required during an incident, traffic gets off the freeway, and here's the central part of the corridor, and then it stops because the lights stay the same timing as everywhere as it was during normal operations. And under this circumstance, and one of the aspects that's unique, during an incident, Caltrans gets control of the local roads and the highways in order to flush the traffic out. And that's something we got the agreement signed with our cities. It uses cameras, it uses sensors, it uses signage. And one of the problems that really occurs during an incident is as you get jammed off the freeway because traffic is stopped, you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going, and this will route the traffic through those corridors where the signals will be optimized to minimize the impact to the local cities. The goals is to remotely control the signals, traffic information, know what's going on in the area. One of the big things is we're going to establish a fiber optic communications link from San Mateo County to Caltrans District 4. And there'll also be real-time access for what's going on the roadway system on these major arterials and El Camino Real. And during non-instances, that's going to be available to the cities. And then I mentioned the fiber optic backbone. The big benefit of this during an incident is the timing will be optimized to get the traffic out of the cities where it's jammed. It'll allow some local event management during a non-incident, and as I said previously, access to all the video signals and monitors. Let's see. The last one, this is what I wanted to show you and emphasize. The Commission dedicated over $30 million to this project. Without the support of your staff and this Commission, we could not have done this, and we're quite hopeful that this will be a model for other regions where you can't build your way out with the highway system. The implementation status, I wanted to let you've allocated at previous meetings this year. We're under construction. We've completed the design of the demo. We're under construction of the local roadway segment, and the El Camino Real segment is also underway. So again, I just want to thank, these are the partners that made this happen, especially the California Transportation Commission, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And again, welcome to San Mateo County.
Mr. Chair, if I could just take a minute. Rich, don't leave yet. Commissioners, this is Rich's last meeting. Rich also has the retirement bug. He's going to be moving on to bigger and bigger, better things. And after 17 years in this business or longer, on behalf of the Commission, I'd like to, Rich, wish you a very, very wonderful retirement, and thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we move on to item number 11, report on the regional agencies, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Will Ritter. I'm with the San Joaquin Council of Governments on behalf of the Regional Transportation Planning Agencies. The Regional Transportation Planning Agencies met yesterday with Caltrans and CTC staff to discuss items including the Local Assistance Programs delivery, MAP 21 implementation, and Prop 1B program delivery. As reported last month and also noted today, the regions have supported the successful delivery of 100% of the federal funds available to California this federal fiscal year, and with this success has enabled California to secure an additional $136 million in federal funds through the August redistribution, of which, as noted, 53 will be credited to the regions in the local assistance program. So great news to be shared by everyone, as noted previously. With regard to the redistribution of old federal earmarks that is on today's CTC agenda for action, the regions have appreciated the opportunity to work with the department to identify new projects for any funds within the regions that could not be used by the original project sponsors. The regions look forward to the Commission's support to the revised project list and the successful use of all $43 million in California by the end of this fiscal year. On today's agenda is a discussion of MAP 21 implementation and action on the federal fiscal year 2013 local assistance lump sum allocation for federal programs. Over the last month, the regions have been working with a number of partner agencies through the MAP 21 working group in the development of a fiscal year 2013 MAP 21 funding distribution plan that best supports the delivery of federal projects currently programmed in federal fiscal year and state fiscal year 2013. Many of the projects programmed in fiscal year 13 have gone through either state or regional selection processes and are the basis of the state's 2013 Federal Transportation Improvement Program. And the regions are supporting the modified administration's proposal as presented today by Caltrans, and appreciate all the work the department has had in modifying the original proposal. While not explicitly a part of the Commission's action today, the regions want to ensure that the SDP state cash exchange is maintained for eligible rural counties as possible with available state cash, and that currently programmed T projects in the STIP are allocated over fiscal year 2013. I would specifically like to recognize the efforts of the Rural County Task Force and the California State Association of Counties for their efforts in addressing the rural county interests through this process and ensuring that these issues continue to be championed in the remaining MAP 21 implementation process. So with that, I thank you and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 12, Rural Counties Task Force Chair, Sharon.
Good morning, Commissioners and Executive Director Reinhardt. I'm Sharon Scherzinger, Executive Director, El Dorado County Transportation Commission and Chair of the Rural Counties Task Force. Our meeting that we had was last Friday, and a series of things that we discussed were the needs assessment, and one of the things we'd like to do is to thank BIMLA as well as Susan Branson for their help on this project with us. They've also allowed us to participate in the executive committee along with the 4 large metropolitan planning organizations in the state. We feel this is a very good step in terms of identifying the priorities for that document. It will cover the state geographically as well as certain issues that are pertinent to the rural parts of the state. The second item that we are working on with this group is we had a series of statewide meetings. We're supportive of including all the working papers. Many of our members participated in developing those in the appendix of the document. We also feel that it's very important to identify the efficiencies. We shouldn't be asking for more money without articulating how we've used our current funding effectively. The next item is the MAP 21. This has been a pretty big lift for the rural counties. We have pretty small staff, and it's challenging for us to tackle the complex federal legislation. But we have had a lot of help from the RTPA group and Mitch Weiss on your staff, as well as CSAC. We are supportive of the proposal that's going to come before you today, primarily because it keeps the existing list of projects intact and all the work that we've done moves forward. However, as we go into beyond fiscal year 13 and into the next authorization, the rural counties do have significant concerns in terms of equity with funding. We want to ensure that key programs for the rural counties, such as safety and the bridge program and the STP program, remain intact for us. We need at least a floor level of funding to move forward with those. We are also very strongly oriented towards keeping the exchange. The federal process is particularly demanding in a small area to handle. And then, last but not least, we want to ensure that performance measures that are developed for the implementation of this program reflect those issues that are important to rural agencies. And then lastly, our liaison for the Rural Counties Task Force has been Annette Gilbertson. And on behalf of the membership, she has been an excellent liaison to us, always there, you know, to help us out with organizing the meetings and getting us information and communicating. And so you've got some pretty big shoes to fill, and we just want to thank her for all the work she's done for us. Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Self-Help Counties Coalition Chair, Andy. Diane today.
Good morning, Chair Tavoloni, members of the Commission. Andy Chesley sends his regards. I'm the Vice Moderator for the Self-Help Coalition this year. The Self-Help County Coalition continues to meet with BT&H Secretary Brian Kelly to discuss a number of ongoing issues regarding our state-local partnership together, as well as the Governor's transportation proposal. We look forward to those ongoing quarterly meetings so that we're coordinating with the Bryans. We've been in ongoing discussion with the transportation community and the Capitol to discuss needs to augment some of the project delivery sunset extensions in legislation, including design build authority, and we'll be continuing to work on that as well as other project delivery tools in the coming legislative year. We were able to work effectively with both Senate and Assembly legislative, transportation, and budget staff, and particularly the Department of Finance, at the end of the legislative session to reach a compromise on our preparation of project initiation documents. We've been reporting this to you for quite some time. These are also in the vernacular known as project study reports. The compromise that we reached is that local agencies will not be charged indirect costs by the department for oversight and development of PIDs, only direct costs. So we're looking forward to continue to develop these documents for the state highway system projects that we fund. We're in the final organizing phases for our self-help Focus on the Future conference, excuse me, down in Newport Beach this year. It's November 13th, 14th, and 15th. We understand 5 or 6 of you will be participating. Welcome, and thank you for your participating in the upcoming conference. We are going to have another very successful event. So please join us if you haven't already been committed in our excellent round of transportation discussions over those 3 days in November. We want to thank Susan Branson in particular and the rest of the Commission staff for the excellent work you're doing in the needs assessment. Both the self-help counties as well as our aspiring counties have been participating in that effort, and we congratulate you on a good job so far in that. Finally, we're aware of 3 local sales tax measures that are going to be on the ballot this November. There's an extension of Measure R in Los Angeles. There's a sales tax measure in Alameda that extends and expands the local sales tax from 0.5 cent to 1 cent. And finally, there's a conversion of a flood tax in Napa to a transportation tax that will be dedicated primarily to local road needs. We wish all three of those counties well in the votes that are coming up in November. And that concludes my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Item number 14, Annette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to give you a brief update on the book item that you'll find in your meeting book. The governor has acted on 3 of the bills on our list. The first bill he acted on was directly related to the commission. It's AB 441. It requires the commission to attach a summary of the policies, practices, and projects that have been employed by NPOs that promote health equity in the next revision of the RTP guidelines. The governor signed that on September 19th. The next bill is related to funding and finance. AB 1770 pertains to the California Transportation Financing Agency, in which our executive director is a member. This will include that rolling stock can be also an eligible item within this under the authority. This was an urgency bill, so this one's moving pretty quick. And the last one is related to rail, AB 16. It's in regards to the purchase of high-speed rail train, rolling stock, and related equipment that are manufactured here in California. That was signed on September 21st. At the October meeting, staff will report on the bills that still remain to have action on by the governor. If the governor doesn't sign or veto the bills, they will become law, so we'll keep you updated on that. This is an action item. Staff recommends you accept the report.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Item number 15, Mitch.
Commissioners, item 15 is an update on the implementation of MAP 21. This is an informational item. Rachel Falsetti from Caltrans will be presenting an update on the process and the administration's latest proposal, and then I will have a couple of comments after her presentation.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. You should have a presentation in front of you. So I'm here to present on moving ahead for progress in the 21st century, also known as MAP 21. As you're aware, MAP 21 was signed into law as of July 6th, and it goes into place as of October 1st of this year, as Vince Mamano indicated. It's a 2-year authorization, and it is the first major change of all these funding sources since 1991. So it's a first major change in over 20 years. As you can imagine, there's a lot of things that are going around, are happening because of that. It actually consolidates both highway and transit programs. It provides for project streamlining, things such as early acquisition of right-of-way, and then it has a major focus on performance management. The major focus related to performance management really focuses on operations, preservation, and safety of the system. The federal government has up to 24 months for rulemaking for the various areas. Some are shorter, some are longer, and then the states have a year after that to implement what the rulemaking has in it. As Vince also indicated earlier, there is some guidance that was posted earlier this week, and there will continue to be guidance that's posted on the FHWA website to help us with implementation. With all that in mind, the state, along with the regions and the commission, has formed a working group. So we've established a working group, and the purpose of the working group is first to come up with a near-term funding plan, which I'll be discussing a little bit more, and then to come up with long-term funding, a long-term funding proposal, and have a draft of that by 2013. We are also establishing as part of that subgroups to deal with the various issues related to implementation and give some input potentially on some of the future funding. We as a state are working closely with FHWA and FTA, and we're working with them to get some direction first, and then we will be pulling in outside partners. We have pulled in outside partners in certain cases in the subgroups. As far as the working group, we've had robust discussions. And along with commission staff, we've worked really hard to come up with a consensus proposal for the short term. I really want to thank the efforts of everyone on the working group that's been involved, including commission staff, because that's been a lot of negotiation and a lot of back and forth work that has resulted in the proposal that I will be speaking of today. As far as the highlights of the what I call the modified proposal, because what Mitch put also in the book item was various times along the way of proposals that have gone along. But the highlights really are mainly that we've got the same funding level that we had in 2012, which is $3.5 billion. There's a split between the state and locals of about $2.1 billion for state, $1.4 billion actually, I did not update that, $1.4 billion for the locals. What the focus is really on maintaining the current funding levels so the current projects that we have programmed and the regions have programs can go forward for delivery and be funded. And that was a very important point that all of us wanted to do. And we wanted to make sure our current federal STIP that we're going forward with would remain constrained so that we would actually have access to this fund. With this, there's no legislative changes that are required to implement this, but of course we are looking at a long-term solution that we would be coming forward with. The intention of the proposal wasn't to be a commitment of how the funding splits would happen in the future, but it was just how we do them to deal with our project delivery we currently have. So the next basically shows, you should be able to read it on the PowerPoint that you have in front of you. I don't know if you can read that. I can't read it from here, but basically what it shows is that we've kept between the state side, those are state projects that we're implementing, and the local projects that are actually on the local system, we've kept the split of $2.1 billion going to the state and $1.4 billion going to the locals. And that means all of the projects that we have, including all of our projects in the shop, will be funded. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mitch.
I guess I would just reiterate something that Rachel said. In the various working groups, because there have been bigger groups and larger, and smaller groups and larger calls, I think there's been consensus, if not almost unanimous agreement, that we need to have a commitment to the projects we have programmed this year. We're in the year. There's not time to change and do something completely different. And so, to that, I'm definitely supportive of what's being proposed. I think the real risk is that these discussions are definitely for the short term, and we're embarking on other discussions for the long term. But the risk is how much does what we do in the short term inform the decision making in the long term. In the short term, we've made decisions based on percentages, bottom line, and there have been advocates for percentages of different proposals. But what the state's policy has been in the long term towards federal funds is that when the feds require us to spend money in certain areas, then we have delegated that decision-making down to the county level. When we're not required to spend money in certain areas, then the states, through its various statewide priorities and statewide programs, has decided what county to spend that money in. And often with the STIP, significant local input. And I would just caution that this is a short-term solution for this year. The real hard work is going to be how do we move forward next year and the year after.
Any questions? Any questions, Commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Inman.
Of course, I'm my same broken record, and I realize there's no specific funding for freight and goods movement, but we do have a title, and I know we are doing some work to update our goods movement action plan. So can we at least put a bullet point on some of these slides to keep in front of our mindset how very important to our state and our nation's economic well-being are the flow of goods that flow in and out of California. So I'd love to see at least a mention here, because as Secretary LaHood develops a national freight plan, if we aren't actively participating, my fear is it's not necessarily going to be the most efficient for our nation, since we have natural deep water ports and abundant exports that we're trying to get to market, and it really ties in with the Secretary of Commerce export policy. We can be a key player, so I think it's important that we get it on our summary sheets.
Thank you. Any other commissioners, any questions? I believe we have some speakers here this morning, and we'll take them in this order: Jeannie, Patricia, Rebecca, and Laura.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sorry, I wasn't expecting my item to come up first because I submitted my comment last minute, but good morning. My name is Jeannie Ward-Waller. I'm the California Advocacy Organizer for the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. So I just want to get up this morning and say that we're in support of the Caltrans proposal for fiscal year 13 allocation. We're pleased that the proposal funds the federal Safe Routes to School program off the top of the Surface Transportation Program, which enables Safe Routes to School to maintain its current structure. Safe Routes to School is a critically important program in California, with twice the national average of students walking and bicycling to school in the state. A recent Caltrans study revealed that Safe Routes to School projects have resulted in 20 to 200% increases in students walking and bicycling to school, and up to a 49% increase in traffic safety for children in the vicinity of schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Patricia Chen with LA Metro. We mostly just want to thank all the parties that worked together to come up with a solution for FY13, the administration, commission staff, CSAC, all the RTPAs, and last but not least, Will Ritter, the RTPA moderator. We believe the proposal strikes a balance between the state's need to address SHOP needs and the role of local agencies, and it fully funds the region's existing commitments for the T program and others, and it provides a good framework for the balance of the MAP 21 period for negotiations. We support this approach and ask that you allocate the first portion of the MAP 21 revenues according to this plan under book item number 79 today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rebecca Long with MTC, and also a member of the MAP 21 working group. And really, I'm just here also to say thank you to Caltrans, to CTC staff, and to all of the members of the working group. We had dozens of conference calls, and I think there was a lot of creativity. I also want to thank Will Ritter. Ultimately, you know, what this plan represents is a shift in some funds that allows the Surface Transportation Program funds that are so prized at the local level because they're so flexible to be increased by about $26 million above where the administration originally proposed. And in exchange, we've given up a little bit of the local safety funding that, you know, hasn't had the best record in delivery, and allowed the state to use that funding for the SHOP. So at the end of the day, it preserves the same balance, gives more flexible money to the regions. And again, it's been a pleasure working on this. I work on legislation mainly, and it's rare in the legislative arena that you have, you know, compromise and you get to a place where everybody really is happy, as our Secretary well knows from his experience in the legislature. So I just want to say thank you, and again urge you to adopt the allocation, which does reflect this compromise.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Laura Cohen with Rails to Trails Conservancy. I'm also a member of the MAP 21 working group, and I do want to thank the department and CTC staff for including some non-governmental organizations, stakeholders in the process so we can participate in shaping this proposal. We support the current compromise proposal and are pleased that there is a commitment to fund the existing TE projects in the STIP. Rails to Trails Conservancy has been involved with the TE program at the national and state level for a long time, and in fact we've operated the National Transportation Enhancements Clearinghouse on behalf of federal highways for about the last decade. TE has taken a different form, as you know, in MAP 21, but California can continue to be a leader in active transportation, in complete streets, and in greenhouse gas reduction through SB 375. And there are a lot of other compelling reasons for California to continue its commitment in this area. We actually have a higher mode share for bike and ped than the national average, but we also have twice the national average of fatalities for bicyclists and pedestrians. So safety is certainly an issue. One good piece of news, that investing in bike and ped infrastructure creates jobs. And in fact, I've taken to carrying this study abstract around with me. It's a national study released last year by the Political Economy and Research Institute that demonstrates that investment in bike and ped infrastructure actually creates 25 to 30% more jobs per dollar than road projects. So it's good for business too. Important health considerations in California for active transportation as well. So we support this compromise proposal and look forward to continuing to participate in the working group to maintain our commitment to these types of projects moving forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Mitch, I think you wanted to move on to number 79.
Yes, item 79 is related. This is a financial allocation of federal funds for the local assistance lump sum. There is a pink handout in your packet. There's a table on page 3 of the packet which is consistent with the administration's proposal that Rachel went over. Staff recommends, as the Commission has done in the past, that we allocate 50% of the funds, in this case $745,625,000, and then have the department come back later in the year when they've delivered some of that, when some of these projects have been delivered for the rest of the funds. Staff recommends approval of this item.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 16, Mitch.
Commissioners, item 16 is an action item. On August 16th, the U.S. Department of Transportation authorized states to reallocate unspent federal funds from projects that received earmarks from 2003 to 2006. The deadline to obligate these funds is December 31st. The state is required to submit a preliminary list of projects to FHWA by October 1st. Caltrans has presented the Commission with 2 lists. These lists are on pinks in your packets. The first list indicates which of the earmarked projects will or will not be able to obligate funds by that December 31st deadline. Caltrans and local agencies estimate that $21 million in earmarked projects cannot meet the deadline. The second list is Caltrans' recommendation for alternate projects to use this $21 million. Denix Ambia is here from Caltrans to present this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Denix Ambia, Division Chief for Local Assistance. Like Mitch mentioned, on August 16th, Federal Highway Administration issued a memo entitled Reallocation of Unobligated Balances of Fiscal Year 2003 through 2006 Department of Transportation Appropriation Acts. This memo authorized states to reallocate unobligated funding from projects designated in the fiscal year 2003 to 2006 Appropriation Acts to other eligible projects. In California, there are 71 projects with an unobligated amount of about $43 million subject to this flexibility. In response to this notification by FHWA, the department immediately began working in partnership with both the local agency earmark sponsors and the regional agencies in which these earmarks reside. The department first surveyed all the original earmark sponsors and asked if they could submit the request for obligation by November 1st of 2012. The survey results are presented to you in pink. 38 original project sponsors said they will be able to obligate the funds on the original earmark projects within this time frame. However, the remaining 33 project sponsors said they will not be able to obligate the remaining $21.1 million timely. After this survey was completed, the department then shared the results of the survey with the respective RTPAs, in which any uncommitted earmark funds remained, and asked the RTPAs to work with their respective agencies and propose alternate projects that could use the remaining uncommitted and unobligated earmark fund balances. All the 11 regions in which funds were available for reallocation responded saying they could obligate these funds within the time frame, and they submitted 22 alternate projects for the $21.1 million remaining. These alternate projects proposed by the 11 RTPAs are also presented to you in the pink. All these funds need to be obligated by December 31 of 2012 in order for California to compete for the additional funds left unused by other states. The department has set a deadline of November 1st, 2012 to submit the request for obligation for all the agencies proposing to use these funds. If any agency does not submit the complete and correct request for obligation by November 1st, then the remaining funds will be obligated for Caltrans projects that may or may not be within that region. FHWA has directed that states must provide to FHWA a preliminary list of projects by October 1st, 2012. The department proposes to submit the projects in the two lists in pink. The department recommends the Commission approve this proposal so that the department may submit it to Federal Highways by October 1st deadline. This concludes my report, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Commissioner?
Since we don't meet in November, will we have any opportunity to have input into this? Is there some assurance that they will get those that can't go forward and meet the December 12th deadline? We'll have the information in October?
At this point, the original project sponsors have committed to us they will submit the request for authorization by November 1st. And the regions has submitted the alternate projects also, for which the request will be submitted to us by November 1st. So
if they don't, we're going to reassign that money to Caltrans state jobs,
right,
so that we don't lose any federal dollars. But we gave them the first opportunity to assign that, either utilize it on the earmarks, pick new projects to assign that money to, and if they don't by the deadline before it goes poof, we're going to use it.
Is there any possibility to give some preference for the region it comes out of?
I mean, we gave them first dibs now. I mean, they have the opportunity to allocate those funds. I think at that point we're going to be looking at the highest priority projects that can be allocated by December 31st. That's the utmost goal, and the controlling factor is the end of the calendar year.
Yes.
I want to ask more of a macro question. Given the fact that we have such limited resources and we seem to be, fighting to get the work done, it blows my mind a little bit to think that we have this kind of a number going back to 2003 and 2005. So I guess my question is, what lessons learned? I realize there's a whole list of projects here and a whole bunch of reasons that they haven't been able to get to their start line. But are we learning some lessons from all of this? Because I would really hope that whatever precious dollars are coming our way and we are all collectively stewards of, that we can return to our residents their investments. So have we learned lessons from all of this? I don't know if Malcolm, that might be your question.
The department is not the recipient of any earmarks. These earmarks are all to local entities.
So it's a local.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Denix, I know we have to vote on this. We have a deadline here of October 1st, but in looking through this list of projects that weren't completed, and I realize they're local projects and not state projects, I would be curious, maybe for our next meeting, if I could get an explanation from those who didn't use their earmarks, why they didn't use their earmarks. That's probably along the lines of what Fran is concerned about. But there's an awful lot of money here and a lot of big projects, and I'm just curious why they didn't use it.
We can get that information from those project sponsors at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, Mitch.
And I would suggest that we ask the department to report back on these projects similar to what we did with the stimulus funds to ensure that they're obligated. And in a related item, perhaps to give an update on the status of other earmarks that are out there, because there are other older earmarks that the U.S. DOT wasn't able to include in this.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 17.
Yes, Commissioners. Item 17 is an action item with a couple of actions included here. We have an action to approve an amendment to delete a project from a prior cycle of the competitive program due to delays in the project they were not able to deliver. So we would ask that that be deleted and then added back into this fiscal year cycle to be reprogrammed. We are also requesting, staff is also requesting that the Commission approve a policy for 2012-13, which is the last year of this program. This policy would allow projects that did not score high enough to be funded in the first go-around this year to remain eligible for funding should any funds become available due to savings or lack of delivery in this fiscal year. We would then fund these projects in order of their score, those that are below the line. This policy would also allow, if you agree, for additional late applications in order to have some additional projects under the line ready to go. We would ask that the applications would be due no later than November 30th. Then any late applications would be scored as per usual and then added to the list below the projects that did come in on time. So this way, if any funds become available due to a lack of delivery or any savings, we would be able to use those funds right away on an existing project below the line, have it done before June. And then for information purposes in this item, I have included a list of the project applications that we have received as of the deadline of August 15th. We received 28 applications requesting an approximately $18 million. We have approximately $15 million available right now. And we're in the process of reviewing and analyzing those, and we will be bringing those forward for action in October. So staff would recommend approval of the amendment and of the savings policy.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? So moved. Item number 18.
Yes, Commissioners, item 18 is also an action item. This is for the formula program of the state and local partnership. This is an action item to amend the existing program and to program several new projects. These changes are shown on the attachments. In addition to these changes, I've included for information purposes an attachment that shows the balances that are remaining to be programmed for the agencies that receive formula funds. A couple of those have requested for October, but in general we have about $100 million left that has not been programmed, and these funds need to be used by June. So I've included that for information so everybody's aware of what they need to be doing. But we would recommend, staff would recommend your approval of the amendment and the new programming.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 19.
Yes, Commissioners. Currently, it is estimated that approximately $250 million split, $150 million south and $100 million north, will be generated from contract award savings from allocated CMA projects. With the impending December 31 allocation deadline, and per the Commission's CMA savings policy adopted in June of 2012, it is proposed that the freed up CMA funds be allocated at the December meeting to the Gerald Desmond Bridge replacement and the DeVore interchange improvement projects. And this is a key, and a commensurate amount of SHOP funds be deallocated from the two projects. The freed up SHOP funds then can be allocated to SHOP roadway and bridge rehabilitation projects as these projects become ready for allocation based on the north-south split. Rachel Filsetti is ready to present the candidate SHOP projects and roadway rehabilitation projects and answer any questions related to schedule and priority.
So the department has attached a list of basically 2 projects in the south that total around $220 million and 5 projects in the north totaling around $180 million. The projects were chosen because they're all long service life projects that can be delivered this year when these funds become available. The list includes both bridge and roadway preservation and rehabilitation projects, which are considered by the department to be of the highest priority for SHOP funding. Of course, that's after safety and legal mandates. The department plans to replace funding first on the Gerald Desmond in October and then on the DeVore at the December meeting, depending on how much CMI savings is made available. And then we will fund these projects taking into account the north-south split based on a first-come, first-served basis, taking into account also that in the future we will be looking to fund these projects with as other funds come forward for potential savings of projects that are awarded.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rachel, how did this list get developed again? Did the locals give these projects to you, or did Caltrans?
No, these are Caltrans projects. So they're Caltrans SHOP, because it's SHOP projects. So Caltrans is the manager of the SHOP.
So no local input.
There are Caltrans projects, but there are definitely needs within the regional systems. They're the Caltrans projects within the regional systems. I think if you ask most of the regions, they would agree that these projects are needs in the system.
Commissioner Hart.
As I recall, we don't always get in the weeds on which projects you're spending on this, but on this particular chunk of money, we had asked for this ahead of time, and this is what your response has been, right?
Correct.
And the commissioners had asked specifically that the freed up SHOP money be spent on SHOP projects that are bridge and roadway rehabilitation projects, heavy rehabilitation, not landscaping, not maintenance stations, not any of those type of projects. So the department's been very responsive to the commission's direction.
Any other questions?
I just have one, Joe. In terms of adding to the list and on a first-come, first-served basis, is that really, to me, there should be some other prioritization, perhaps.
Like what?
Well, I would say that you have some high needs areas, so I don't know that I just got my paperwork in faster. It wouldn't necessarily be.
This wasn't a matter of anyone getting paperwork in. It was us looking at what projects are available to come forward within the program that makes sense within the north and south, really. So they're projects that are coming forward to be delivered this year. So yeah.
And to answer your question, Commissioner, all of these projects are extremely urgent needs. These are projects where the pavement is falling apart.
Yeah.
And Rachel, also these projects will be ready to go within a time frame.
They have to be made ready to go by at least June of this year, because that's when the funding is available. Yeah, it's this federal fiscal year. Yeah.
We don't want to put at least, like just one rest stop in there for former Commissioner Chalker, just to kind of tweak him a little bit.
Are you guys want to change your policy guidance to this?
No, not really.
Do these programs look like they're online?
Oh, yes.
So there should not be any problem?
There should be no problem choosing from these projects and coming forward and using all the funds.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Item number 20. Teresa? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have Speaker Patricia. Now you don't have to run.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm actually speaking on sort of book items tab 19 as well as 49 today. We want you to know that Metro faces significant challenges with freeway congestion, probably on the I-5 corridor, the most congested area in the state. And we have an ambitious highway program to address these issues. In the next decade, we plan to support Caltrans in developing 5 major highway projects with project costs totaling nearly $5 billion. Metro bears a large part of the funding responsibility with a 40% share of the necessary funds. In spite of bid opportunities presented by the economic downturn, some projects are experiencing significant cost increases, primarily in the area of right-of-way costs. On the I-5 South widening and HOV lane project, for instance, we are working closely with Caltrans, and we do believe there will be cost increases. It is imperative that our partner, the state, and we work closely together to successfully deliver our shared program of projects in order to prevent delay and counterproductive bottlenecks in the system. Taken together, book items 19 and 49 would take $72 million out of the programming for the I-5 South project and use it for the SHOP program, adding to the budget impact of any cost increases on the I-5 South project. We ask that if you could please hold over the I-5 South CMIA deallocation action recommended in book 49 until we can work together with Caltrans and Commission staff to manage both the state and local funds and jointly assure delivery of our shared highway program. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, one question. You mentioned that you might have right-of-way cost overruns?
Yes, we believe that there will be cost overruns in that area.
Is my understanding, staff can correct me, but right-of-way is not included in the CMIA funding?
Correct. Most of the CMA funding has been done for construction purposes, and the Commission's policy has always been that any cost overruns in the CMA program are to be handled by the local agencies. They have signed contracts with the Commission and with the Department agreeing to that. What LA is now proposing is that they be relieved from the policy that the Commission has imposed and heavily imposed on everybody else. LA wants to be treated differently than everybody else has been treated. Up to now, all construction savings have occurred back to the Commission, and the Commission has said all construction savings then would fall onto the SHOP if there are no other CMA projects that can use the construction dollars.
So is Metro asking us to change our policy?
Yes.
I would phrase it as we're asking for more time to work together, and like we say, these are projects where we have a joint partnership, and we're asking for an opportunity to manage the local as well as the state funding. We would not be asking for CMIA funding to be used on something that it's not eligible for. We're simply looking for more time to make an arrangement that will help us make the highway program whole, the state system.
Well, but what you're really asking is for more time for money that right now that has a very short time frame on it. By December 31st, this money is no longer at the Commission's disposal to allocate to anything. And up to now, the Commission has held a very hard line with everybody else. Everybody else had the same type of problems. They had cost increases. They had other things. The Commission has always said no. If it's construction and there's a saving in construction, it accrues back. And right now, LA is making the argument that in LA's case, there's savings in construction, and those savings should not accrue back to the Commission. They should accrue back to LA, and it's a different standard than for everybody else. Because most of your cost increases are in the PS&E stage of these projects and in the right-of-way stage of these projects, and some of them are in segments that are not even part of a CMA program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Farmer?
We've talked with Metro, and my suggestion to Metro is that we find some SHOP projects that we can work with the Commission. I want to see this money go back as much as we can, as we've just done, to projects that are ready to go. They may not all be projects that you all want the money to go on, but there are good projects out there that we can put the money into and recycle it back to our counties and our regions. So I would advise Metro staff to sit down with our staff and let's find a project. this policy has been in place. Everybody's known about it. I understand the issues with the cost overruns, but if we start making exceptions, then we're going to have to open the door for everybody else. But having said that, I think there is a way that we could work together to make sure that I'd like to see some of that money go back to our region, to Metro, just as we've seen the money today go to Gerald Desmond Bridge. So let's focus on that and see if we can get that done. And I know the staff will work with you on that if you'll contact them.
And Commissioner, just to let you know, on the list, there is a project in LA County that would be getting $68 million. And the savings is $72 million. So we're almost there.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Item number 20. Teresa?
Commissioners, item 20 is an action item. It is the adoption of the Highway Railroad Crossing Safety Account 2012 program, HRCSA as we fondly call it. The HRCSA guidelines directed agencies to nominate the projects by July 1st, 2012. The guidelines also stipulated that at least one public hearing will be held prior to adoption of the program. Staff reviewed the nominations based on the criteria set forth in the guidelines, and based on this review and the available programming capacity, staff prepared a list of projects for both Part 1 and Part 2. You will find the list of projects in pink in your packet. It's a revised attachment. It says 20. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the Proposition 1B HRCSA 2012 program as proposed in the attached list.
I would move staff recommendation.
Second. We have some speakers. Steve, Mark, and Mary.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Escobar speaking on behalf of the Port of Stockton. I just wanted to thank the Commission, CTC staff, and San Joaquin COG staff for this funding opportunity. This is a critical underpass improvement project for the Port of Stockton and will greatly enhance domestic and international goods movement through the Port of Stockton. Again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Commission, staff, Mary Grace Houlihan, City of Lathrop. On behalf of the City of Lathrop, I just want to thank staff and the Commission for the consideration of our Lathrop Road grade separation project. It has great regional significance, and we truly appreciate your support, and the City is committed to being into construction by next spring. So thank you again.
Thank you. That's it?
Okay, did Mark speak?
Huh?
Mark Imbrani?
Yes, sorry, I checked that I did not want to speak.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, our host, or one of our hosts today, Mike Scanlon, who is here, has a very timely and important safety project here for the San Mateo Bridges grade separation project. And it's always just nice when it happens to be the day that the items like this come up and we're at the host site. So Mike, thanks for working with our staff, and to our staff, thanks for working with all the agencies impacted.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 21. Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, if I can introduce item number 21. As you know, over the past several months or year, we've been talking about the shortage of funds and what innovations can we put in place in delivering some of these projects. At your request, we have invited Samsung to come and make a short presentation. Samsung, most of us would think, is only in the wireless business, but I learned something new, that they are doing and delivering lots of very creative infrastructure projects, utilizing innovative delivery methods. So today we have with us Shelley McCarthy. She will introduce her speakers, and what I've asked Shelley to do is, in the essence of time, provide a brief presentation, and commissioners after this will set up a meeting in Southern California and Northern California for Shelley and her team to go into more details. With that, Shelley, thank you very much for being here.
Hi. On behalf of Samsung Construction and Training, I'd like to thank BIMLA, the chair, and the rest of the commissioners for having us here to discuss a topic that's of great interest to Samsung. And as BIMLA mentioned, we are sensitive to your time, so we offer our time at your convenience to come back up here and in Southern California and talk in greater detail the topic of public-private partnerships. I've brought with me one of our directors of our structured finance team, Henry Nabenthal, and he will present this discussion to you.
Thank you, Shelley. Good morning, everyone. As BIMLA said and as Shelley reiterated, we're going to keep this fairly brief. A lot of information we're going to present, but I'm going to focus on some highlights on each of these slides. Just want to discuss really briefly the whole point of a public-private partnership. Some key elements that I think everyone would agree are highlights and important factors of a P3 procurement. Focusing on the procurement of services and not assets is very important. Transferring risks that traditionally would not be transferred to the private sector is also an important element of a public-private partnership. Focusing on the entire life cycle cost of the project, not just the upfront construction cost, is also a very key element of a P3 project. The ability to bring in external financing sources, namely private equity sources, is advantageous, particularly in today's conditions. And obviously the repayment of that financing can come from multiple sources. Most people think of the traditional source of funding, mainly tolls, as one. But as the most recently closed public-private partnership here in California, the Presidio Parkway, there are alternate methods in being able to repay the capital and long-term cost of a public-private partnership. At the heart of a P3, it's the optimal sharing of risks between the public sector and the private sector. That's really the key important facet of a P3. Where do they come from? Again, they trace back from Australia and the UK, and they've been used extensively in Europe, in Australia, in Asia, and most recently in South America as well. Wanted to discuss some administrative models that are used elsewhere. I'm going to skip this slide and give you the four examples that we see that are very popular examples used globally. Infrastructure UK in the UK. Infrastructure Ontario in Canada, and Partnerships Victoria in Australia, and here in the U.S., the Puerto Rico Public-Private Partnership Authority. What these authorities do is they centralize the use of P3s through all types of products, whether they're highways, airports, healthcare, all different types of products. Really brief example of an overview of the authority in Puerto Rico, but I want you to focus on the bottom bullet there, the types of projects that they've been able to implement using a P3 model in Puerto Rico. Toll roads was the very first one that went out the gate and they were able to reach financial close on. They're currently in the midst of closing the financing for the expansion of the airport in Puerto Rico, and they've just started on the process of constructing and developing a social treatment center where the private sector will have the responsibility of designing, building, financing, and then over the long term operating and maintaining. P3s are not really new to the U.S. There's a lot of examples of where P3s, at least within the transportation arena, have been already used. The ones that are underlined or in bold are projects that have either reached close or are in operations. And the ones that are not are projects that are currently being considered throughout the U.S. in terms of using the P3 model. Obviously, there's a lot of projects in California, particularly in Southern California and the metro, that they're studying and considering. On the bottom right, in that orange box, are examples of, for one reason or another, a P3 procurement was started on that project, and for one reason or another, they were not able to successfully close on that project. Either through the procurement process, it was canceled, or it never really took off. But whether you were able to use them successfully or not, there's always lessons learned. So authorities throughout the U.S. are taking the lessons learned from those projects and being able to apply them on future projects. Wanted to focus on one particular example. Again, a couple of slides here, but wanted to just introduce you to this project in Texas, in the Fort Worth area in North Texas, where TxDOT was able to use really an innovative solution, came up with an innovative solution in terms of being able to fund it. At the heart of the problem, they had limited funds. They had a lot of work that they needed to be done. And in essence, they developed a procurement that awarded the project to the team that was able to put forth the greatest amount of pavement for the limited amount of public dollars that were available. The rest of the project, if you will, would be then delivered using a pre-development agreement. In other words, they had the right to then further develop that corridor and present a plan to be able to fund it to TxDOT. I'm just going to skip through the next couple of slides. This just goes through the detail of that particular project. What I want to concentrate on is the winning bidder. This was also the first instance where a pension fund was involved as part of the team. In this instance, the Dallas Police and Fire Pension Fund System was involved and provided financing to the project. So there are local partner that was able to participate in being able to deliver a much needed asset for that area. And the proposal that won and is currently under construction delivered 3 times more than what TxDOT was expecting when they started the procurement. So another example of how a successful P3 procurement can provide solutions to the public. And finally, I just want to leave you with some concluding thoughts, things that sometimes you often hear and challenges to the use of P3 models, and things to consider. Sometimes things are not straightforward. Most often people say tax-exempt financing is the cheapest alternative. Again, at the beginning of the presentation, I discussed risks. Risks aren't free, and transferring them certainly are not free. So you have to take that into account when assessing whether or not merely the cheapest source of financing is the best alternative in terms of the product. Shortcuts, same thing as privatization and allowing the private sector to charge more. Again, things to consider. P3s are contractual relationships between the public sector and the private sector over the long term, and that allows the public sector to obligate certain measurable standards, whether it's cleanliness, whether it's response, whether it's availability of the product, obligate those requirements to the private sector. And then, of course, in terms of charging the private sector for certain use of the product itself, again, the P3 model allows the public sector to contractually develop the terms for which those services will be charged over the long term. So again, thank you for your time. I know I've went through a lot of material, but hopefully this kind of allows you to start some conversations with various parties and allow you the opportunity to kind of dig into one of these particular items in terms of P3s. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any questions? And I'm sure we might have here. If not, thank you so very much for coming, and we will do a north-south with you at a later date.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Stephen.
Yes, Commissioners, we will rapidly jump on the agenda right now to the information calendar. Items 30 through 41 are information reports deemed by staff not to raise any issues. The individual reports will not be discussed unless specifically requested by a commissioner. And if There are no questions, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. The next 13 agenda items, 42 through 54, are consent items. The following changes need to be identified. Item 45, resolutions of necessity. Resolution C 2095 is withdrawn because the property owner has requested an appearance. And item 49, financial allocation amendment, I-5 Carpool Lane project, is withdrawn at the request of Commissioner Fromer so we can keep the dialogue going with LA. With these changes, staff recommends that the Commission approve the consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Wonderful. Now we'll move on to...
Well, we'll jump back to item 22.
Item 22, thank you.
Yes. Commissioners, we will take the next two agenda items together. In response to recent sensational Sacramento print media stories about the structural integrity of a self-anchored suspension SAS bridge, the CTC Executive Director, the Caltrans Director, the FHWA California Division Administrator, and the Chair of the Seismic Peer Review Panel testified on August 14, 2012 at a Senate Transportation Committee hearing. All declared the SAS is structurally safe and sound. Nevertheless, the Senate committee decided to form another independent panel of experts to again re-examine the issue. It is anticipated that the Senate committee will follow up with another hearing later in the year. In the meantime, on the SAS, the suspender cables have been installed and the transfer of deck load from temporary supports onto suspension cable are ongoing, with about 95% of the deck load already transferred. On Yerba Buena Island, the last major concrete pour took place at the end of August, thus bringing closer the finalization of the massive transition structures between the SAS and the Yerba Buena Island. Now, some of the commissioners visited the construction site yesterday, and next we will have Bart Ney, the Chief Public Information Officer for the Bay Bridge project, will provide a presentation on the project and show you how the load transfer process is being accomplished. So take it away, Bart.
All right, thanks, Stephen, and thanks for having me out here, everyone, to take you on this odyssey, which you've probably already been on. It's kind of interesting preaching to the choir a little bit about the Bay Bridge. There are a lot of audiences that have been interested in the project, especially recently, as we're in the final year of construction. So as we start off, this presentation is kind of an overview of some of the work that we've done to bring the Bay Bridge up to current seismic safety standards. And the first images that you see are there to remind people why we're doing this project. It is completely seismic safety. Loma Prieta earthquake that happened in October of 1989 actually dropped a span at Pier E9 and began this process of determining exactly how we'd bring the entire 8 miles of the Bay Bridge proper up to current seismic safety standards or beyond. So there's really 3 elements of this entire endeavor that make it different. One is the seismic safety element. There were innovations that were actually created for this bridge that are first time that we'll show you a little bit on here. We're moving into west approach imagery, but I'd like to stay on these 3 points first. One of the questions that we get all the time is, why is it taking so long to build the Bay Bridge? And the other one is, why does it cost so much to build the Bay Bridge? And some of these images will show you the magnitude of the work that we've had to do on it. But staying with that first point that makes this project different, seismic innovation, you first have to have a criteria that you're looking for. So we made a new criteria called Lifeline that basically says that this structure will not only not collapse, but it will be immediately reusable to emergency service vehicles in a large-scale seismic event. And then, without reconstructing it, we'll be able to put it back into public service. So how do you live up to that? Well, you have to come up with some innovations, and we'll be talking about them when we get to the east spans. Now we transitioned over to some west span imagery. A retrofit was done on that structure as well. The second thing is we've had to keep the bridge open to traffic the entire time that we've done this, and in some cases, as you'll see when we get to the east span, entire sections of this bridge land in the very same footprint as the existing bridge. 280,000 vehicles go across the bridge every day. So we've had to create bypasses, come up with very strong media outreach programs so that we can get the region's traffic to continue to move while we take the bridge out of service to do massive level efforts like what you're about to see here on the eastern span. Back in 2007, we had to replace about a football field-sized section of bridge. That's about 5,000 tons of steel and concrete. We had to demolish the whole approach to the Yerba Buena Island and roll in this new piece of the bridge. Basically, it was the first element of the new east span that we put into place. So what you saw there was an animation of how we intended to do the work. And these images show you the actual footage of us moving that 5,000 tons into place. We had less than 3 inches of tolerance on either side of this structure of the bridge. C.C. Myers was the contractor that did this work. They brought in a great subcontractor, Mammoet, known for moving big things, and they managed the work very well. We were able to get the bridge back open a little early when we did this work back in 2007. So that second thing of keeping the bridge open has been a major challenge for us. The third thing, what we'll really get into when we make it over to the self-anchored suspension bridge, is aesthetics. Aesthetics is a big part of the effort to build this new bridge. But a little bit more about Yerba Buena Island. This detour that we had to build was no small task in and of itself. It basically was a clone of the existing bridge that we built to the south of it. And so after we had done the work in 2006, we built out the rest of the viaduct. And then in 2007, we had to prepare to take the bridge out of service again to do this. Basically move almost 7,000 tons of steel, some of it 80 years old, 150 feet in the air. And we had to do this in 3 days. So you just saw there some of the animations that we put together to describe what the work was going to be, and now here's some of the construction footage of the successful operation that went on. This is, the demo right there was a sub Silverado that did an amazing job of freeing the structure and moving it about 150 feet out of the way. And then again, C.C. Myers was the prime contractor that was able to move this 3,600-ton double-deck structure 150 feet in the air and connect it to both sides. We opened just a little bit late. That had to do not with this operation, something called an I-bar, which if you have questions on, I can take that later. So we continue on here with the actual new bridge construction. This is a Yerba Buena Island transition, and it seems a little easier than some of the things that we've been done, but this is a really special bridge. What it has to do is take the side-by-side traffic of the new east span and reorient it into a double-deck configuration that allows traffic to go through the existing Yerba Buena Island tunnel, which is still the largest diameter man-made borehole tunnel on Earth. So we're keeping that. And now we're jumping into the SAS a little bit. When we first sort of tried to come up with what the signature span would be, some of you probably know this story pretty well, we were struggling for what that would be. Caltrans proposed a concrete viaduct. There were many in the region that did not agree with that. We went through a process with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to come up with a regional preference, and it became a self-anchored suspension bridge, what will be the world's largest self-anchored suspension bridge. But we couldn't award that contract immediately, so we had to go into construction on the Skyway. So we'll come back to the SAS later. The Skyway is an amazing structure. It's actually 2. 28 piers in the water, 1.2 miles long. It's the largest part of the new east span, and it was primarily built right here in the Bay Area and in Stockton, California. 452 individual segments, some weighing almost 600 tons. And it's kind of easy to see where all the steel is in this bridge. 75% of the steel fabricated for the entire east span is domestic. So these individual segments were shipped down the delta here through the San Pablo Bay, arrived on site in San Francisco Bay, and through a process called balanced cantilever construction, we lifted with these sleds here each individual segment, balancing them consistently on both sides until we got to the end of the Skyway, where we lifted these 1,700-ton steel segments that were also built here in the U.S. Took a year each to fabricate those 150 feet in the air to complete that project. Now, we're still moving fast. We've got to connect to Oakland and back into the toll plaza because we have to pay for this. So the Oakland touchdown was actually done in 2 phases. Primarily, the first phase connected westbound as you're heading towards San Francisco, and created the parts of the bridge that were over the water for eastbound. But because of a conflict that existed with the existing bridge, we couldn't complete the Oakland touchdown in that first contract. Another contract was going to have to come on, and originally we were going to open half of this bridge in 2013 and half of it in 2014, because as you can see there, the existing bridge is in the way of where the eastbound structure is. Let me see if this works. So you see that? Conflict. This red area needed to be demolished. So our risk management team and our scheduling team worked together with our designers and came up with this plan that you see being laid out here. Move all of the traffic to the south, and then put a construction team, Flatiron Construction ended up winning the contract, down in between the two bridges, and after you've demolished that pie section, build it all out so you can open the bridge at once. It saved us about 9 months of schedule and put us into the position where we are now, where we're going to open the entire bridge at one time. So we keep on moving very swiftly with this presentation into what the self-anchored suspension bridge actually is. It's an all-steel structure with one main tower, one main cable, and a self-anchored suspension bridge basically means that the cable sections anchor into the deck instead of down into the ground like traditional suspension bridges. So we go back in time here. There was a separate contract that was let to do the foundation for the main tower. That's a 2,100-ton piece of steel that was fabricated in Corpus Christi, Texas, shipped through the Panama Canal, and placed there by Kiewit FCI Manson, with over 400 rods sticking up at the bottom of the foundation that the later part of the tower would be set upon. Then in comes American Bridge, the original fabricator of the first bridge, and Fluor, a joint venture, to build the rest of the self-anchored suspension bridge. In order to build an SAS, you have to construct basically two bridges. One that's almost, again, a clone of the original bridge. It's at that size, so that you can put these deck segments in place and hold them there until you can put the cable system in place. So 14 deck sections on either side. This is one bridge connected by cross beams. So it's a total of 28 pieces. And these pieces for the tower and the deck were fabricated in Shanghai, China. The reason for that is the capacity doesn't currently exist here in the United States to fabricate that much steel in the time frame that we had for the project. So here you can see the placement of the individual segments. The tower itself is almost like a stool. It's 4 individual legs capped at the very top, like the seat of a stool. Individual cross beams, shear link beams, one of our innovations on this bridge, connect them together. And it was constructed in lifts, a total of 5 lifts of all these different legs going up. Here you can see the stroke on the strand jacks that actually did the heavy lifting here to put these pieces in place. Now, we were lifting over 1,000 tons of steel at times, and to heights almost 500 feet in the air. And this was all visible to motorists, so we had to go out with a communications campaign on that, too. My shameless plug is that if you want more information on the Bay Bridge, go to baybridgeinfo.org. But that's how we kept people up to speed with what was going on, and we didn't have problems with too much rubbernecking during this construction phase. So then you get the tower in place, you got the decks in place, and then it starts getting a little complex. You have to pull the tower back towards Yerba Buena Island, pull it out of Plum, because this is an asymmetric bridge. We're longer on the long span than we are on the back span. So we pull the tower back, and as we weight it, we'll bring the tower back up to its Plum position. And then we're ready to put the cable in place. So these next animations show what the cable's made of. Individual wires, the numbers are there. It comes up to 17,399 individual 5mm wires. There's 127 wires and 137 strands. Math's all there. But how do you do it? This had never been done before. It's a single cable. That cable's going over the top of traffic, coming up to the top of the tower, wrapping around the back end of the bridge. So for the first time, this cable is really moving in 3 planes for a suspension bridge and wrapping around the back end. Gravity isn't going to be our friend like it was for Roebling and crew when they built some of the first suspension bridges here in the United States. So what American Bridge and our designers had to come up with is a system, a hauling system that's very similar to what's been done in the past, but could carry prefabricated strands all the way across the bay on one system, and then disconnect it from that system and connect it to a secondary hauling system on the back end of the bridge, so we can get that cable to wrap around the back end. And again, you can see these are craftspeople. These are ironworkers and carpenters and all the different crafts that make this possible. The learning curve to do something like this was extremely high. Our animations don't have people in them, but you can see in the footage that it really is highly dependent on skilled labor to do this type of work. And then we go back to the original hauling system after we're safely around there, take the strand back up to the top of the tower, and then all the way, almost looks like a roller coaster right when you're up off the top, and just like Santa Cruz or Magic Mountain. Down the cable goes back to the Oakland side of the bridge where it's tied in and anchored, similar to other suspension bridges. You have a splay chamber where the strands actually splay out and tie back into a bulkhead on that end of the bridge. See right there. So after the cable's put in place, it's not cylindrical, sort of hexagonal, and it needs to be compressed to get rid of the voids that exist in there. So compaction machines were placed on each end of the cable. There were 4 of them heading down from the top of the tower so that we could compress the cable into its cylindrical form and get ready to take us to the next step. Everything was done back into the anchorage to tie things down. This is a very unique geometry for that anchorage. It's one of the most amazing things about this bridge is how tightly we've been able to compress the architecture of it. So that you get a nice line across the bay. Now here are the individual cable bands that hold the suspenders that are ultimately going to hold this bridge for 150 years, twice the normal lifespan for a bridge built in the United States today. 114 of those were fabricated in Stoke-on-Trent, England, at Goodwin Steel, 120-year-old facility. So they built these pieces, the cable bands. And then these the strands, there are over 200 strands that were built in Missouri by Wireco, were placed out there to ultimately hold the bridge. So this is one of the ways that we did it. It's a little different depending on where you are on the cable. So once we got to that point, we got to our biggest challenge yet, load transfer. We were basically going to be lifting 35,200 tons of steel on the bay. Pretty much at once. 8 different crews out there working 12-hour shifts. As Stephen said earlier, we're 95% lifted at this point in time. But we had to do this in 3 phases. So right now, in this animation, everything was being held by the false work there. The first 114 strands are connected in phase 1, and all of the weight is lifted. Phase 2 has a few strands near the tower. Phase 3 distributes the rest of them. But the most important thing is right here in phase 1, where we are right now, we're about to go over a major milestone. All of the weight of that bridge is on those first strands. It's the heaviest load they'll see. And then over the next couple of months, we're hoping to finish in November, we'll distribute that. This is such an interesting and probably one of the riskiest parts of the job that we really broke it down and we tried to get the media on board with what it is we were doing here in load transfer. So this is what's happening right now. You see there's a little bit of liftoff there from the bridge. All of these individual steps that we're going through here are happening simultaneously with 8 different crews of engineers and craftspeople doing the work. And some of you that made it out to the site the other day, you could really see the articulation of the main cable is almost unbelievable. The cable moved out 30 feet and down 15 feet. And you can see some of that in the animations that we have here. This is sort of a typical how we connect it to the suspender saddles. Nuts and bolts. You keep it simple when you're this big. And then here's a look at what that liftoff looks like down here. It's just a few feet to a few inches in different locations while we're doing this work. Probably one of the most amazing parts of building this bridge is happening at this moment with 95% load transfer going on. So the bridge is moving in so many different directions while we're doing this. So here we have a look at an area that we want to control in seismic motions. These are bearings and shear keys. But you can see the deck is moving as we start to lift this. So those things are not locked down until later in the process so that we can get the bridge to get in its sort of final geometry, its final positioning. Then on the back end of the bridge, we have a jacking saddle that we basically can put tension on the back end of this cable here by placing steel plates that are being jacked against the cable. And once we have got this thing to its proper spec, then this whole area, this whole cavity that we start off with that's allowing this saddle to move is filled with rebar and concrete, and it doesn't move again. The saddles were all fabricated in Japan, at Japan Steelworks, a 100-year-old facility there. And then as the weight comes back on the bridge, we slowly release. I think almost all of the tension's been released at this point on the tower, and it stands back straight up now that it has the weight of the bridge on it. Then we put cowlings in certain locations where we have some geometry change on the cable, and then the rest of the cable has to be wrapped. So we complete load transfer. The bridge is where it should be. It's not going to move much anymore, at least as a unit. And then we have to wrap a wire around the outside of the cable to protect it. So this is an S wire, so it's interlocking. It helps with corrosion protection. There's a zinc-based paste that we put on it first, and then a paint coating outside of it, and that's how we protect it against corrosion. So we're not to this step yet. These are only animations for how the contractor intends to do the work. There'll be a lot more craftspeople out there actually doing that operation. So then there's sort of the final lineup, and these animations make it look a little more precise than it would be in the field. But this is basically the concept of what's happening. You're not going to have a perfect alignment once everything is finished. So what we have to do is use these different jackings, strand jacks, to align the two bridges. Right here we're looking at the skyway portion of the bridge and the self-anchored portion of the bridge. Another one of our innovations that we'll talk about in a minute are hinge pipe beams. These beams, at their longest, are 60 feet long. They're 6 feet in diameter, and they have a fuse built into them so that in a large-scale earthquake it can bend and contort and not damage the bridge, but keep it in line so that we can have it available for emergency use. So that's a hinge pipe beam location. We'll be jacking the two bridges together, placing the actual joints, and then we'll be connected on that end. Then we've got various hardware all around the bridge that has to wait until it gets into that final position before we put it in place. So you can see some of those elements going in right over the saddle area there. And then we come down to a critical part of the bridge down here where we've got bearings that allow the bridge to move in one direction and shear keys that try and control that motion. Now that the bridge has stopped moving, we can put rods through it. We can grout it or concrete it in. We know where the bridge is going to be, so these final steps can be done. And then temporary structures that we put in place can be removed. And we start looking like a bridge. Catwalks that we use to put the cables in place will be taken down. The false work for the tower and underneath it will all be removed ultimately. And then here you can see the sort of a beauty pass. That's the self-anchored suspension bridge. So, on the anniversary of the 1906 earthquake, we created this animations with our designer to show how the bridge would perform and what the seismic innovations would be. So in a massive scale earthquake, this is what our designer, T.Y. Lin, projected would happen with a bridge. These are shear link beams. This is one of the innovations. It's a fuse, basically, that connects the four parts of the tower. It can bend and contort, be unbolted and replaced after a large-scale earthquake. Now we're back looking at that joint between the SAS. Here is what it looks like in an earthquake. The fuse is bending. We can, again, cut those fuses out. And then battered piles are another big feature of this bridge. A global effort. Yes, it is, but a lot of it done here in the United States. So that is actually a steel fact sheet you can get from our website. Again, 75% of the steel fabricated here, but some areas we do have global partners. So in this part of the presentation, we sort of go around and look at some of the fabrication work that's been done. Here we're in Missouri, and it doesn't matter where we are in the world. Our inspectors are looking at every part of this bridge, making sure that they pass rigorous controls, rigorous testing. So we shot this in Missouri at Wireco. These are the individual 200 strands that we had to have fabricated. Then we're looking at the bearings right there that we just looked at a minute ago. The outsides of those were fabricated in Korea. This is a Korean plant. The inside bushings were fabricated in Pennsylvania. And that's a great, example of how two different countries, the United States and Korea, work together to create just this one element of the New Bay Bridge. And that's how the bearings work. You can see their range of motion right there. And then the cable bands, Goodwin Steel in the UK. Just an amazing effort. All 114 of those things are unique because of the way that they sit. So this is an arc furnace right here where they're actually pouring the steel, heating it up to the specifications, and getting ready to pour the molds. And then as we're pouring steel into the molds that are ultimately going to be these things that are going to hold the bridge up, we're analyzing it. We're taking tests. So there's a sample that's being taken for spectrographic analysis to make sure that the steel is what it is. And then as the parts come out, they're machined, they're grinded. We love sparks in public information. That's got to put that stuff in there. And then green tagging was a big part of any of those fabrication facilities that had a lot of parts. We had an inventory control system that could tell us exactly who the people were, what was the crew that was working on it, when it was fabricated, what it is, where it goes. Inventory was huge. Now we've moved over to China. This is the ZPMC facility. 7 football fields could fit within inside this building where they built the tower segments. And so you saw a little bit of the rotisserie there where they actually moved the individual segments for welding. Here's some of the deck plates for the deck portions of the self-anchored suspension bridge. And then they were shipped across the Pacific on these transport ships. Pujang Cable fabricated the wire for the main cable, put it on spools. And now we look at the saddles. Japan Steelworks fabricated this. They have the largest ingot technology on Earth. They were able to build, that's how they were able to build the largest suspension saddle on Earth, which we have on this bridge. And that's because the main cable saddle that sits on top of that 500-foot tall tower has to carry that cable twice. So here's the architectural beauty pass again. The self-anchored suspension bridge has that same catenary design as its sister, the Golden Gate, and the west spans on the San Francisco side of the bridge. It's one of the main reasons that the structure was chosen, was its aesthetic beauty. As we cross over and look, you can see there's an echo happening here with these shapes and the Golden Gate. And we'll look at the Skyway. You can see there are a lot of echoes. There's the SAS tower and the columns. The wings here aren't needed for a bridge of that type. We modeled them after what was needed here for the SAS. So this was a walk down memory lane for a lot of you, I think. It's kind of an overall gathering of what's gone on the Bay Bridge right now. We're really at an amazing visual time on the project. If you go out to the Bay, go out to Treasure Island right now, you can really see that the bridge is taking its final form. We expect to be done with load transfer in November. As Stephen said, we just completed our massive concrete pours on Yerba Buena Island. We're pouring one of the ramps right now. And over on the Oakland side, we're making that final connection down for eastbound. So we're really on track to have this bridge open Labor Day weekend 2013. And that's the update.
Boy, that was great.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You know, I know you guys are taking a lot of heat, but I just got to tell you that, being out there and talking to the guys, it's really coming around. And for the umpteenth time, they're going to say that it was built right the first time. And I'm very, very proud of the work that you guys have done out there.
I'll take that back. Thank you.
And now you see, commissioners, why I love working for you guys, because I'm on that project. Even though I'm overworked and underpaid, I love it.
Bart, before you go, Commissioner Dunn had to leave. She did ask me to ask a question of you. What is being done to save the troll?
Oh, my God. Well, does everybody know the Bay Bridge Troll? Probably. It has its own Facebook page. The troll was actually put on the Bay Bridge in 1989 by the contractor that did the replacement of the span that fell. There was a local artisan, Bill, I forgot his last name. Anyway, I think he's coming to our presentation tonight. There's a presentation at Pier 39 tonight. The Joe Nicoletti Speaker Series begins, where our engineers are going to talk about the bridge. But I digress. The troll is on the bridge. It's one of our ways of protecting the bridge against earthquakes, I believe. It was put on there by the contracting team, and it is going to be saved. It's going to be removed from the structure as it goes. The eastern span is going to be taken down, but its final place hasn't been determined yet. I think right now it's a sort of a TB-POC decision on what's going to happen with the troll. There's a lot of different potential things that can happen, but be assured we are going to save the Bay Bridge troll.
I will let her know. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 24. Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners. The Commission has directed agencies with TCIF projects to provide executed project based on agreements and identified project benefits and set forth project scope, cost, and schedule. In accordance with this direction, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, the implementing agency for TCIF project number 90, the Humimi Road Widening Project, has provided an executed based on agreement for Commission approval. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the baseline agreement.
Questions? I have a motion? So moved. Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 25.
Yes, Commissioner. The next bunch of items are quarterly reports, and the first one will fall on to Bill Bronte, who will report on the rail operations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Bill Bronte from the Caltrans Division of Rail, and this item is the fourth quarter operations report as well as a summary of performance over the entire state fiscal year running from July through June. The quarter we're talking about here was April through June as well. Overall, looking at the year, it was a very good year on a state fiscal year basis. The program established another record ridership, 2% above last year, about $5.6 million. Our revenue for the year was up nearly 10%. Our combined on-time performance of all three corridors was 86%, and the combined fare box recovery ratio was 54.1%. Looking at the individual corridors, you can see that Pacific Surfliner, our ridership is down. However, our revenues are up. Expenses, there's a note there, you'll notice that there was a change in how the monthly allocation of costs from Amtrak were handled, which caused an unintentional inflation. Looking at the year, it was down 3%, but again, our revenue was up 11.1%. So we are continuing to move along fairly well in that area. The issues we're having with on-time performance relates to a significant amount of track work that's been going on down there, funded both by ourselves and, and our regional partners, Metrolink and Coaster. Basically, half of the loss of ridership was the result of a fare increase we implemented last year. And then we also revised, and working with our partners down there, Metrolink and Coaster, have revised our schedules, which took a lot of the commuter passengers that had been working on rail-to-rail. They have now shifted their travel patterns back to riding Metrolink. Looking at the San Joaquin corridor, again, it was up. Revenue was significantly higher than the ridership growth. Also looking at it from a full fiscal year basis, that our ridership was up for the third consecutive state fiscal year nearly 10%. So over the last 3 years, we're looking at ridership that has grown nearly 30% on that particular corridor. Our on-time performance is 88.5%. It should be noted that our freight carrier, the BNSF, is dispatching their trains at 100%. The problems we're running into is there are 300 at-grade crossings down the Central Valley on the BNSF, so there's a fair number of issues with conflicts between cars and the trains. We've had 22 months of record ridership, and also similarly with our revenue as well. The final corridor is the Capital Corridor. Their ridership was up about 1.5%. The revenue, they also have implemented a number of fare increases, is up 10%. Their expenses are slightly up, and overall, looking at their performance for the fiscal year, their ridership was up 5.4%. Again, we're seeing good growth in revenues of 12%, and on-time performance. The Capital Corridor has the best on-time performance in the nation of all the Amtrak services. It's a great partnership between the corridor and the Union Pacific, which is the Class 1 railroad that they operate over. Looking at the highlights, so to speak, of the first 2 months of the fourth quarter, ridership on the Pacific Surfliner is down, as is revenue. We're looking into what happened. The San Joaquin Corridor was up 2%, revenues nearly 4%. Capital Corridor also experienced a bit of a loss. We think this is in part because of the furloughs that have hit state employees both in the Bay Area and the Sacramento area. We think that has had an impact on the ridership. On-time performance, again, the Surfliner, what you are seeing with the significant decline in on-time performance relates in part to Coaster taking over dispatching of the railroad in San Diego County, so there were some learning curve issues there. Again, we had continuing track work, particularly between Fullerton and Commerce on the BNSF, and also, even though it's a great revenue producer for us, the Del Mar racing season does have an impact on our ability to operate on time, just because of the number of people getting on and off of those trains. That concludes my presentation. I'll happily answer any questions.
Any questions? Oh, we got it here. Yes.
Oh.
Commissioner Inman first, please.
Well, Dario and I might be sharing the same comment. But anyway, I think since we're talking about rail, it's appropriate time to recognize Metrolink and our 2 Class 1s for their pilot project on the positive train control. It is so very important for us, especially in our urbanized areas, where we are mixing freight trains with our passenger trains, and we're ahead of the required mandate with that, and really want to recognize our Class 1 partners and our passenger rail partners in stepping up and getting us through the pilot and getting it implemented. So thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question for you. On 2 of our lines, on Surfliner and San Joaquin Corridor, we saw a big increase in expenses in the corridor. You want to talk about that? One was like 13, one was 12.
Basically, the difference was initially the billings we got from Amtrak were the total cost for the year, or their estimate, and we were billed on a monthly basis 12 equal payments. A lot of the states said, this doesn't help us a lot in figuring out what our expenses are going to be going into the future. So this year, there was more of a recognition of how the billings and how the expenses are actually being charged. That was most of it.
So it's sort of been a change in accounting.
Yeah, and there will be another change coming up starting next year with the implementation of Section 209, and the state's assuming more of the costs.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Item number 26.
Yes, Commissioner. This item is the Department's fiscal year 11-12 project delivery report, including environmental document milestones, right-of-way expenditures, and construction contract acceptance. Rachel Fulsetti will present the project delivery report and answer any questions.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm here to cover the fourth quarter project delivery report. I'm just going to go over a few highlights. On page 3, the department had committed to delivering 279 projects to Ready to List for an estimated construction value of $3.2 billion. We delivered 275 out of the 279 RTLs planned through the fourth quarter. And as far as, I'm going to skip ahead to the award status. On page 22, we looked at the awards. As you look at the award status for the last 6 years of contracts for delivery through the fourth quarter of the fiscal year. As previously reported, 100% of the first 4 years of projects have been awarded, and as of this report, the 5th year for 9-10 projects has also had 100% award. 98% of the 10-11 projects have been awarded. I'm not going to go into details of any of the rest, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer questions and other things within the report.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you. Item number 27.
Yes, Commissioners. This item is the Proposition 1B Quarterly Delivery Report, and again, Rachel is here to present the report and answer any questions.
Hello, Commissioners and Chair. As was reported in the last quarter, the department delivered all of the CMA and state right 99 projects that were originally programmed. The department had originally over $2 billion worth of bond projects that we needed to award by the end of this fiscal year. We have awarded 15 projects, 14 CMIA, and 1 State Route 99. This is all related to the CMIA and State Route 99 projects. We have 12 projects which have bid opened and are pending award. 5 of those are CMIA, 7 of them are State Route 99, and then we have 12 projects that are scheduled to bid open in October. Of those, 10 are CMIA and 2 are State Route 99. So we should be on track for the CMIA to assure delivery and to assure award of all those by the statutory deadline of December 31st, 2012. For State Route 99, we're on track, I believe, to meet the December 31st date for those projects that were originally programmed. And also another note, we will be coming forward with a State Route 99 savings plan proposal for the October meeting. As far as the bridge seismic program, there's $125 million that is to be allocated to projects, which is a local match to the federal bridge program. We originally programmed 479 projects, and now we're down to 424 projects because various projects have moved out because they no longer need this matching fund. Traffic light synchronization program had $250 million. Of that, $150 million is in the Los Angeles area, and $100 million is in other areas. 84 projects were originally adopted into the program, and the Commission has allocated over $204 million to the TLSP projects. As far as SLPP, you heard an update on that today from Laurel as far as where we are, and there's a current cycle that she is adding to the competitive program. The keynote for SLPP is all the projects need to be allocated by June of 2013. HRCSA, again, Teresa did an update for HRCSA. Intercity Rail, the one thing I want to note on that is we've gone out with the procuring of the new rail cars. You gave us an allocation in the March meeting, and we are going forward with that. And at this point, it looks like we're going to be procuring 42 new rail cars. As far as TCIF is concerned, that's the next item on here. We actually have a programming of about $1.1 billion still left to go, not programming, there are projects programmed of about $1.1 billion left, and of course there was an initial over-programming. There's still only $965 million available, and I believe between now and December the coalitions are going to be working to get into that $965 million that is actually available. We are working with the Commission staff to be meeting with the corridors on a monthly basis so that we can come forward with monthly statuses on these projects. And that's my overall report for the fourth quarter for all the Proposition 1B projects.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Rachel, thanks for the report. It's really helpful. For the traffic light synchronization program of the $250 million, of which $150 million is LA and $100 million the rest of the state, you mentioned $204 million had been allocated. Of that remaining $46 million, how does that break down between LA and the rest of the state?
Let's see. So far, we've allocated 115 to LA and 89 to other, I believe.
So LA still has about $35
well,
million.
Actually, there are 2 projects remaining that are non-LA to allocate of the $7.9 million, and 7 more for LA of $32 million.
Okay.
Oh, Teresa.
Most of the projects that remain to be unallocated is mostly from LA at this point. Today you will be allocating to 1 TLSP project, and after that we only have about 1 or 2 from the north, but all the others are in the south.
Are you getting a sense from the folks in LA that they're going to be allocating the balance in an expeditious manner?
Yes, we are pushing them to come forward for an allocation. We don't want to be holding up those monies. And we will be working also on getting baseline agreements to align the project, to get them on schedule again. But yes, we are, the traffic ops from Caltrans, they are working very hard in getting those projects allocated as soon as possible. We're pushing them to come forward. Although there's no statutory deadlines, we are pushing them to come in before the end of the fiscal year.
Great. So at the beginning of, or we'll be getting more reports then as we get closer to that?
Yes, and we're very close. We're almost done with that program. We have most of the projects have come in for an allocation except for like the 9, and we only have 2 in the north and the rest in the south.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Stephen, item number 28.
Yes, Commissioners. With the impending December 31, 2013 TCIF project award deadline, staff will be providing TCIF status update items at each commission meeting from now on. Commission and department staff are currently meeting with each corridor coalition to do a project-by-project review, which will assess the projects, identify critical items, and assign level of risk. The detailed information will be reported beginning with the October 2012 meeting. As of September, there are 37 TCIF projects that have not yet received an allocation from the Commission. The 37 projects are identified in the book item, and their statistical and schedule information is based off of the June 30th, 2012 TCIF quarterly report. The projects are grouped by corridor coalition, and a coalition representative present to address their projects that are unallocated and behind schedule and indicate when they expect the red X's to become black check marks. The first representative is Kenny Cow, speaking on behalf of the Northern California Trade Corridor Coalition, to be followed by Patricia Chen, representing the Southern California Trade Corridor Coalition, to be followed by Jose Nuncio, the San Diego border, for the San Diego border region. Kenny, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, Commissioners and Executive Director Reinhardt. I'm Kenneth Cow with MTC, representing the Northern California Trade Corridors Coalition. The coalition has 7 TCIF-funded projects that have not yet received an allocation. Of these 7, 3 projects are listed in the book item as being behind schedule for the Ready to List, or RTL, milestone. These 3 projects are the 880 reconstruction project between 29th and 23rd Avenues in Oakland, the Richmond Rail Connector project, and the Tehachapi Trade Corridor Rail Improvement project. On the I-880 reconstruction project, the Alameda County Transportation Commission has submitted the full design package to Caltrans Headquarters Office Engineer, or OE, and the Headquarters OE is currently reviewing those plans. Current estimate for RTL is the end of the year, and that represents a delay of about 2 months. And that delay is caused by extensive review due to the complexity of the project. We expect that project to become a black check mark within the next 2 months. The Richmond Rail Connector project, the environmental documents are almost certified. Right now, the CEQA document is in circulation in the clearinghouse for their 30-day review process. So that's almost done. The definitive agreement is completed, and the current estimate for RTL is February or March of next year. And the delay is mainly caused by additional environmental studies required for the environmental document. And again, that should also be turning black probably early next year. And the final project is the Tehachapi project. The environmental documents are in public comment period, and they're almost certified. Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF, proposes to do a scope change to take out some of the signal upgrades on the project, and they have committed to funding that signal upgrade on their own dime when the traffic justifies it. They're saying that right now it's not necessary, so they would like to take it out of the project and fund it later on with their own money. CTC staff has requested 2 items be completed. One is a concurrence letter from Union Pacific, which UP is working on right now, and also a revised cost-benefit analysis on the new scope, which Caltrans is working with their consultants to perform. A new baseline agreement reflecting the new scope and schedule will be considered at the October CTC meeting, where we expect the check mark to not be red and become black. The definitive agreement is also near completion, and as soon as BNSF and Caltrans work through the scope change. The current estimate for RTL is early 2013. And with that, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of the Southern California Consensus Group, which is the trade coalition for the 5 counties in Southern California. The Consensus Group project sponsors are aware of and working diligently to meet the statutory deadlines of the TCIF program. And out of 47 projects in the Consensus Group area, 23 are allocated. The remaining 24 projects are shown in the TCIF status update in book item 28. Of these projects, design is 90% or more complete for 8 projects. Right-of-way is 90% or more complete for 4 projects. 19 of the 24 projects, comprising approximately 80% of the TCIF funds, are anticipated to be delivered for allocation by March 2013, which is well in advance of the June CTC allocation deadline and the December statutory construction deadline. 2 projects are planned for allocation in April, and for the remaining 3 projects, the allocation date is yet to be determined, as the projects recently received the programming vote for the TCIF funds. And we will have more information in future status updates.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, good morning. Jose Nuncio from San Diego Association of Governments on behalf of the San Diego Border Region. There are 6 projects remaining to be allocated from the San Diego Border Region. I would like to note that 2 of those projects, Project 71, the 32nd Street at Harbor Drive project, and Project 73, the National City Marine Terminal Improvement, also known as the Wharf Extension Project. Both SANDAG and the Port of San Diego submitted a letter to the Commission back in August to withdraw these 2 projects from the program, and I understand that these will be coming in to the CTC in October for action. The 3rd project that shows a red X is the San Isidro Yard project. SANDAG has submitted that project for allocation at the October meeting, together with a baseline agreement amendment to just true up the schedule based on the latest information. And with that, I conclude, so I'm open to any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Yes, Commissioner. That takes us on to item 29. This item is a report on the sale of State Route 238 Hayward Bypass single-family residences per Commission delegation granted at the August 2011 meeting. Up through the August 2012 meeting, the Commission approved 42 deeds under the delegation. 8 sales have been consummated. 18 sales have fallen apart. The tenant opted out of the purchase, most likely did not qualify for bank loans. The remaining 16 deeds are still being processed, with action required by the tenant, the department, or the City of Hayward before the sale can be finalized or abandoned. This is an information item and no Commission action is required.
Thank you. Any questions? No, I guess we move on into we're all through.
Commissioners, the next item is the next 2 items are items 55 and 56. These are STIP amendments for notice in Imperial and Monterey counties. Staff will be placing these items on the consent calendar at the next Commission meeting.
Any questions? Thank you. Item number 57, Stephen.
Yes, Commissioners. At the September 2011 meeting, the Commission approved the split of the Lincoln Bypass project into 2 projects, Lincoln Bypass Phase 1 and Lincoln Bypass Phase 2A. This item is a request to amend the CMA baseline agreement for the Phase 1 and Phase 2A projects. The delivery schedule is being revised for both projects, and the post-mile limits are being moved for project number 2A. And Placer County Transportation Planning Agency is adding an additional $100,000 in local funds to the Phase A2 project. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the CMA baseline agreement submitted.
Move approval. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Item number 58, Stephen.
Yes, Commissioners, we're going to take items 58 through 62 together. Items 58 through 62 are T-site project baseline amendments. As reported under agenda item 20 earlier today, some of the TSI project baseline need to be amended to correct project schedules, revise scope and costs. Commission staff recommends that the Commission approve the TCIF baseline amendment requests. And
Second. All those in favor?
And we have the Port of Long Beach would like to address the Commission and tell you about some of their successes.
Thank you. Good morning, Commission. I'm pleased to inform the Commission that on September 19th, the Board of Harbor Commissioners awarded the construction contract to AMES Construction for $36.8 million to carry out the rail projects that TCIF is part of the project funding. So we're very excited, and we look forward to have the construction started by late this year or first thing in 2013. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 63.
Commissioners, item 63 is an action item. It's the financial allocation for SHOP projects. There are 5 SHOP projects this month. The department is ready to proceed with the projects, has environmentally cleared them, and staff recommends that you approve the allocation of $22,802,000 for the 5 SHOP projects.
Yes, Commissioners, this item is a request to allocate $6 million in SHOP funds to the Doyle Drive P3 Park Presidio project. When the Doyle Drive project was initiated, the department chose to provide overall comprehensive insurance for all 8 project contracts at a cost of $12 million. Securing separate and individual insurance policies for each contract at the time was estimated to cost over $17 million. When the Doyle Drive project was split into 2 phases, with phase 1 being contracts 1 through 4, delivered through the regular process, and phase 2 being contracts 4 through 8, delivered through the P3 process, the department decided to keep the original comprehensive insurance policy. Canceling the insurance for contracts 4 through 8, the P3 portion would have cost the department $1.2 million, and it was estimated that having the P3 consortium acquire an equivalent insurance policy would have increased the cost of the P3 project by $7 to $12 million, and would have resulted in having multiple insurance programs covering the same project site, potentially resulting in coverage issues and costly litigation. The $6 million required to cover the insurance premium on contracts 4 through 8 will come from a risk reserve line item in the phase 2 P3 funding plan approved by the Commission back in May 2010. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the allocation request.
Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 65.
Commissioners, item 65 is a financial allocation amendment for a SHOP project, and it's in the Bay Area. It's in 3 counties in the Bay Area, and it's called a Freeway Performance Initiative project. This project's being delivered through 5 contracts, and the request for the allocation amendment is to shift $449,000 from contract 2 to contract 1. Staff recommends the approval of the item.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Item number 66. Mitch.
Commissioners, items 66 through 69 are STIP allocations for action. Staff recommends approval of these allocations.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Item number 70.
Item 70 is a request for supplemental funds. This is on Route 198 in Kings and Tulare County. This is a CMIA and STIP project. The request is for $1 million in STIP funds. In addition, they're adding a little over $400,000 in federal demo funds. For the commissioners who were at our town hall in Visalia, we took a tour of this project. One of the things they pointed out was where some migratory birds were nesting that impact the project schedule to the tune of about a 5-month delay where they weren't able to do some heavy work, and that caused this cost increase. Staff is recommending approval of this item.
Second. All those in favor? Item 71.
Item 71 is a request for supplemental funds to award a SHOP project. This is in Route 80 in Yolo County. This is an instance where there was an error in the engineer's estimate. The project design called for some temporary shoring, and that was missed in the development of the estimate. Therefore, the bids came in higher than the estimate. There's not the expectation that we could rebid this and get a lower bids. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
Question?
How did this happen? Jody, can you come on up and explain this to me?
I'm Jody Jones, Caltrans District 3 Director. This actually was a mistake. We had this in the original estimate. We did constructability reviews and safety reviews. The temporary shoring was included in the plans and specs, but when we revised the estimate, it was inadvertently left out. So it was a mistake. We have circled back with the staff that prepared the estimate, and we're going to use this as a lessons learned for all of our design staff so we can make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Do you have a kind of check and balance system? I mean, do we have two people reviewing this, or is it just one person and away it goes?
No, we do have a check and balance system, and we'll be adding this to our checklists after constructability and safety reviews. We've never had this happen before. It simply was a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a question? Any questions? I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Item number 72.
Commissioners, item 72 is a request for supplemental funds. The request is for $396,000 to close out a SHOP project on Route 101 in Santa Barbara County. There's a brief description in the book item of the reason for the increase. Tim Gubbins is here from Caltrans to provide a clearer explanation.
Thank you, Mitch. Tim Gubbins, I'm Caltrans District 5 Director. As Mitch said, there's some brief information in the staff report. And as that shows, this project was completed, the construction was completed, and the project was accepted last December of 2011. At that time, we had our proposed final estimate. In March of that year, the contractor replied to that proposed final with some disputes and claims. The majority of the claims and the items that were contested related back to structural concrete and the way some of the work was done. This project included an overcrossing of 101 as well as an overhead on the railroad structure. When we were removing some of the old one, there had been an additional footing found buried, so it took the contractor longer time. We had paid for that through change order, but it disrupted his structural concrete item on the bridges themselves. Likewise, we had a contract change order for some temporary ramp connections, and the contractor claimed additional labor and equipment delay costs related to those because he was not able to pour the concrete as quickly as he had said. We had denied those when they first came up due to lack of information. Since that time, we have sat with the contractor, seen all the information he had, how he had originally planned his work, and how he was forced to do it based on some of the other changing conditions. And we have reached, in principle, an agreement with him on how to settle those claims. However, we do not have that funding left in the project, and so there was a reference to unissued contract change order. That was just in reference to in order to settle all claims, we would need additional funding. I can provide some other information on some other change orders that happened through the life of the job, but at the pleasure of the board, of the commission.
Yes, Jim.
Aren't the bidders required to check the quantities to make sure the quantities are correct?
Yes.
So I read in here that there's a dispute over the quantities. So they either agreed or they didn't agree.
So some of the quantities, the dispute over quantities were, again, some of the additional excavation we did when we encountered unknown footings for a previous structure that had been removed sometime in the past. And then the quantities related to slope paving and how that was paid for and whether it was the same character of work since he had come in and out and needed to have additional equipment there. It wasn't just the quantities of the structural concrete. It was how to pay for it.
I guess what disturbs me, and it keeps coming back after the 9 years that I've been sitting here, and I'll maybe address some of this to Malcolm, is that I'm not sure the department's contracting properly to cover our fanny, so to speak, and put most of the burden back on the contractors to check these conditions and guarantee that what we're actually accepting in the bid we're going to get, and not get stuck with all these extras all the time.
Well, I think you got to change the contract that you have with these contractors.
Yeah, but I think part of it, Joe, is how you set up the bid and what the expectations are, and what the guarantees are.
You're absolutely right.
But we get these every month, and I just think it's kind of sloppy the way we contract. So Malcolm, I don't know if you could dig into that for us.
Will do. Thank you. Do we have
Staff recommends approval.
Motion? Okay. Do we have a motion? Second? Do we? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 73.
Item 73 is a request for the allocation of supplemental funds to complete construction on a shop project in Los Angeles on Route 5. The request is for $650,000. I would note in the book item on the first page, there's a small table showing the allocation amount and the revised allocation amount. In addition to the shop funds, there's almost $10 million of office and traffic safety funds on the project, so this is not a larger percentage of the total contract costs as, I guess, indicated by that table. The reason for the increase is differing site conditions. The design was based on the as-built plans from the bridge built in the early 50s, and they found a couple of things were actually different when they went out there, so there were some greater costs. Staff is recommending approval of this item.
Question?
And me again.
Yes.
Don't we field verify this stuff? I mean, we've got old as-bills. Doesn't someone go out there and field verify?
In this case, the two things in question were the bridge, the amount of concrete cover over the reinforcement, which we wouldn't have been able to see by inspection, and the other thing was a concrete that was, I believe it's part of the curb removal. There was concrete, but the thing is, and we thought it was going to be dirt. It was actually in the median. There was dirt covering over where there was concrete below, and it was in a pretty busy area of traffic.
And the as-bills didn't show concrete underneath?
The as-bills did not. Yeah, and the older as-bills, sometimes they don't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would think if you had as-bills, it would have shown. Right?
Well, they had as-bills. They didn't field verify.
Yeah. I have a second. All those in favor? Item number 74.
Yes,
Stephen?
Commissioners. The next item is a Prop 1BT project allocation. Staff recommends that you allocate the project.
Question?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Item number 75.
Commissioners, item 75 is an action item. It is the financial allocation from the TLSP program. It is for segment 3 of the Smart Corridor project in San Mateo County. This is the project Rich Napier informed you about earlier today. Staff recommends approval of this allocation.
Move approval.
Yes, Commissioners, items 76 through 78 are requests for allocation of state and local partnership funds. Staff recommends you approve all three items.
Commissioners, item 80 is a financial allocation for a Tier 1 TCRP project. It's a project in Alameda County, and the request is for $10 million. Staff recommends your approval.
Yes, Commissioners, item 81 is a request to allocate Proposition 1A high-speed rail funds for the Caltrain Advanced Signal System project and the Central Subway project. I would have you note that the allocation for the Caltrain does include a small amendment in the vote box, removing a little bit of funds from pre-construction to construction. And staff recommends your approval of this item.
Commissioners, items 82 through 85 are time extensions. Staff has recommended supporting all of the department's recommendations, and as noted in the spreadsheet, we recommend that you approve the 4 time extensions.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I was driving over 580 eastbound over Altamont Pass. Is that, Bijan, is that your district? There's some such segments of the pavement have a 4 to 6 inch differential settlement. When is shop getting, when are we getting some shop funds? I mean, it looked very unsafe to drive and ride.
Thank you. We will stand adjourned at this time. Thank you. Thank you so very much.